Good evening. Welcome to the October 9th special meeting of the Planning Commission to review the data center ordinance. Mr. Solicitor, I know you had an update and you kind of wanted to go through this, so I'll let you kind of start off with kind of reviewing and then you can go from there.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Where we are with respect to the application is, as you know, there was a conditional use application that came in, I believe it was about 2 weeks ago. That application was deemed to be incomplete by the township. They have resubmitted an application which seems to be administratively complete. That just happened today, actually around 3:30, 3:45 this afternoon. We haven't had a chance to go through that application, but again, it seems to at least check the boxes in terms of what those particular requirements are for the application to be deemed administratively complete. The plan doesn't look all that much different than what had already been submitted. And where we are, I think right now with respect to the ordinance is I think it would be beneficial for us to go through some of the bulk and dimensional standards under the current IMU that would be applicable potentially for a data center mixed use campus, and then compare those to the current draft of the ordinance. So if I may, I can go through that very quickly.
Yes, sir.
We did prepare a one-page cheat sheet. We do have a few more. If anybody's interested, they can take a look. It's right up here. Haley, if you don't mind. Bring them down.
Sure, I'll share.
Thank you.
While she's doing that,
Yeah, while Haley's making a couple more copies, I'll start to go through this, and we'll also make this cheat sheet available on the township's website tomorrow. So as I think we've all talked about before, the current zoning on the property that the data center has been proposed on is in the IMU district. That is the Pennhurst property. Right now, when combined with other uses, a data center use fits into a catch-all provision in the general industrial district. That catch-all, together with all of the uses that are permitted in general industrial and IMU, are permitted by planned commercial development in the IMU by conditional use. So that is what the applicant has proposed right now, is a data center use together with other uses to fit within that planned commercial development under the IMU. Under the current proposed zoning for what I call the DCC draft, that's the data center campus draft, the use could be allowed by special exception as a standalone campus without any power generation or other uses. The current tract size for any use in the IMU is 5 acres. Under our proposed draft, the minimum tract size for a data center would be 20 acres. Impervious cover in the IMU and the planned commercial development is kind of a little bit confusing. It's either 50 or 55%, but can be increased to 67% impervious with the addition of TDRs. TDRs, for those of you who don't know, are transferable development rights. Under our proposed draft, the total impervious coverage is limited to 50%. Building coverage under the current IMU is not provided. Under our proposed draft as the DCC draft, it would be limited to 40% of the overall tract. Building height right now in the IMU is a combination of heights because of the campus, the planned commercial development campus. That would be 35 feet, 50 feet, and a maximum of 60 feet, depending upon whether TDRs are used and what the underlying zoning provisions, which underlying zoning provisions are used. We are capping on the height under the current draft at 60 feet, and that is inclusive of anything that would be mounted on the roof, any chimneys, any antenna. Under the current ordinance, you could exceed the maximum height with chimneys and things of that nature. Building setbacks right now, rear, side, and front yard are 50 feet, 100 for rear yards adjoining residential. Under our proposed draft, the minimum is a 50-foot perimeter buffer, 500 foot from any residential lot line, and 300 feet from any public dedicated road. Sensitive receptors, which we have included to define, or which we have defined to include the Veterans Center. There is a building to building separation of 800 feet under the proposed data center campus. Under the current zoning, that's not even addressed. Woodlands removal, currently in our current zoning, there's a 50% allowable removal. Under our proposed draft, we are relying on those saldo provisions right now as drafted, as you've seen on the township's website. However, in combination with the township arborist, we do have a cut sheet provision that we are going to insert into that draft as a red line. That will be available tomorrow on the township's website. That will have much more stringent replacement requirements and have different classifications of forests that must be protected.
What does saldo mean, please?
Subdivision and land development ordinance. Sound under the current IMU requirements, 65 decibels is allowed, 50 decibels if adjacent to residential uses from 9 p.m. to 7 a.m. only. So again, that 50 decibels under the existing zoning is only applicable during 9 p.m. to 7 a.m. Also, no monitoring is required. Under our proposed draft, 60 decibels permitted from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m., 50 decibels permitted 7 p.m. to 7 a.m. In addition, any tonal or impulse noises, those are constant noises or repetitive noises, are limited to 45 decibels, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Any banging, loud bangs, single purpose bangs, think of somebody hitting a hammer, limited to 80 decibels. Infrasound, which sometimes is imperceptible to the human ear, but can be felt as vibration, is limited in that no vibration is allowed past the data center campus property lines. Any sound that is imperceptible to humans must be limited to no more than 100 decibels. Air. Under the current IMU, state and federal standards apply. Under our current proposed draft, state and federal standards apply. Because generators are limited to natural gas and certain renewable energy, we believe we exceed those standards because, again, fossil fuels are not permitted. Under our current zoning, under the current proposed ordinance, we do not allow any generation of power other than by renewable, which is wind, or we've limited to wind or solar. Wind has to be bladeless. We've also said that any backup power devices for emergency, so think about generators, must be powered by natural gas only. So that's how we've limited that. For power generation, again, under the current IMU, power generation is permitted. Under our proposed draft DCC ordinance, generation is not permitted except for very limited renewable sources. Again, think wind with a bladeless wind. And also renewable in the sense of solar. Biomass burning is not permitted. We've expressly carved that out to ensure that we are protecting the residents. LEED certifications are not required under the current IMU. It's very difficult in Pennsylvania to mandate design standards. So what we have done is to institute what I'll call a bonus criteria. Any building in total, 50,000 square feet of total building coverage across the entire site does not have to be LEED certified. Any buildings over 50,000 square feet, and again, in total over an entire site, must be LEED certified. If they're over 100,000 square feet in total, but less than 300,000 square feet, they must be certified completely. Anything over or anything under 300,000, let me say that differently. Anything over 50,000 square feet and under 100,000 square feet must be LEED certified. Anything over 100,000 square feet and under 300,000 square feet must be LEED silver certified. Anything over 300,000 square feet must be LEED gold certified. If you're not familiar what the LEED certifications are for data centers, they have specific design standards for data centers. There are sustainability requirements. We can post those, I believe, on the township's website, Bob. Okay, we'll do that tomorrow as well. With respect to lighting, right now, under the current IMU, we have lighting standards that are in our subdivision and land development ordinance or SALDO ordinance. Those can be waived by the Board of Supervisors. Under the proposed DCC draft, we have incorporated all of the dark sky lighting standards. If you're not familiar with those, Bob is our resident expert with respect to those. But really, it requires lights to be angled downward, shut off in the evening. You have to have dimming in the evening and certain wavelengths or colors so as to make it not seen from afar. With respect to sewer and water, right now, under the IMU, general conditional use requirements say that the use has to be adequately served by public water and sewer, or water and sewer. It doesn't always have to be public. Under our current DCC draft, we're requiring a public water and sewer exclusively, and a closed loop system for cooling or something equivalent to it, so that the water draw is substantially reduced. For impact and feasibility studies, right now under the IMU, none are required. We could try to implement some during our conditional use process and would do our best if the plan were to move forward under conditional use. However, under our current draft, we require traffic studies, environmental studies, economic studies, electric studies, and multiple sound studies throughout the course of the build and also after being built, as well as monitoring. As far as a community benefits agreement, and that's something that's relatively new to Pennsylvania. We've talked about them here in the past, but they're an agreement that is entered into between the proposed data center builder and the township or some third party, and that provide for what is intended to be community benefits in the vicinity of where one of these things would be built. It's a concept that really has evolved from sports arenas and casinos. It's something, again, that's kind of new to Pennsylvania. We believe that we can include them as long as there is a special use, or excuse me, special exception criteria process being used. And under that CBA, the Community Benefits Agreement, the township would hopefully get a number of things. We have a number of criteria spelled out in the ordinance, but those relate to things such as historic preservation, environmental resource conservation, and other things as well. So that's where we are with respect to the ordinance, Mr. Chairman. And what I would suggest is, I know you have all had a chance to look at this. The last draft was only on the 5th, so we haven't had a lot of time to look at it. But if there are any kind of changes that a majority of the Planning Commission would like to see, what I would like to do is take those changes back, redline them into the ordinance, and then assuming there's going to be a meeting next Tuesday, and Bob, I think there will be, right? So I think next Tuesday, we would ask for a recommendation of this body to the Board of Supervisors. The regular meeting is the 21st. Okay. The 21st? Okay, then the 21st. Okay. At the regular meeting, we would ask for this body to make a recommendation to the Board of Supervisors. Before we get into the Planning Commission's comments and the public comments, I do want to recognize the working group that did a lot of work to come together with this ordinance. It was a tremendous collaborative process. We had folks that were consultants to the township, including Roger Phillips at the end of the row here next to Bob, Michelle Adams, who is a very well-respected and renowned stormwater engineer and very well-versed in green development, Rachel, who is both a Planning Commission member here and in the county, spent a lot of time with us. We had some Lawson, who is unfortunately not here this evening. He spent a lot of time with us as well. We had some community members and some EVA members as well. So I really think that group did a lot of very good work to get to a place where we are today, which I believe really goes a long way in trying to protect the residents of this township. So really thank you to all of them.
All right. How do we want to go through this?
Mr. Chairman, what I would suggest is if folks have read it and they had some proposed changes, that we go through those changes. I know one that Elaine has suggested was to have a separation of 100 feet instead of 50-foot setback in the vicinity of the Schuylkill River Trail. I think that's a great suggestion and that you all should consider. So we'll start with that one.
All right. Anybody have issue with 100 feet from the Schuylkill River Trail? No. I think we're all in agreement.
All right, we'll make that change. We did meet with East Vincent advocacy representatives as well, and they had a couple of suggestions that I can just go through too and give the planning commission a chance to weigh in on.
Yep.
One was with respect to historic structures and preservation of historic things, that we also include artifacts. Specifically with respect to Pennhurst, the thought being that there is a museum that's associated with the main building, which many of us know as the Haunt. And that it would be worthwhile trying to preserve those artifacts as well, or have them donated to the appropriate historic community. So adding artifacts in addition to historic building preservation in the community benefits agreement.
I'm sorry, what are the artifacts?
They have artifacts from when the hospital was in operation in general.
Okay,
You could have
not a
like
building.
gurneys and stuff like that, I
Okay.
think is what you're talking about.
Yes.
That type of thing.
Yes.
Any
I'm fine with
issue with that? No.
Joe, related to the community benefits
no.
agreement, what's the legal enforceability of those?
Again, they're very new to Pennsylvania, but if you go through a special exception process, where the township is not sitting as a quasi judicial body, where conditional use they would be, and instead is acting as a party before the zoning hearing board, I believe that the township can enter into a contract with the applicant. The legal enforceability with respect to the terms would be a contract. And in the event that they did not do something they were supposed to do, would be a breach of contract action and not just a injunctive relief or enforcement action before a magisterial district court. Does that answer the question?
I think so, yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
And then back to.
Mr. Chairman, are you good with, or it's up to you?
Yeah, we might as well. If you could come up to the. Oh, sorry. You can. You're fine. Sorry, I didn't even see.
I don't want to get into all my history because it'll take too long. But you can rest assured that I am a expert in environmental remediation and power usage. This company right here, Limerick, I work with the C-suite and the management exclusively for over 5 years. I understand the energy, understand the water. And I still do quasi-government stuff. My name, I'm sorry, is Joseph DeGarry. And I'm from Elverson, PA, and I'm based in outside of DC. And where I'm based is nothing but data centers. So my one question I was going to ask you all, as you're deciding this stuff, have you guys been to a data center? Anybody?
I have.
Yes.
I mean, they're monsters.
Everybody has.
They're absolute monsters.
I don't know
And
if any of us have been to a monster.
okay, to me, a giant building that doesn't fit in anywhere, and where I work at, they're stacked up like sliced bread everywhere. And once they went in, and after the fact, they're putting apartments and different things. So I couldn't live by one, me personally. But one question was, and you said you all been there, you've seen them. So the height of them, economy of scale, the height, the power consumption. Your solicitor had a lot of really good information that I got that he shared with me beforehand on this, and I want to commend him for that and what you guys are considering. So I don't even know if I can talk about the site, but I got this final report on the site that they want to put one in at over here at the old state hospital. This is like a paperweight, because where I remediated power plant, all of PSE&G's coal-fired power plants in the state of New Jersey, I took the hazardous waste out of there on a regular basis. There's only 2 plants in the state of New Jersey I did not. That's Oyster Creek, which is a nuke plant, and Salem. I remediated coal-fired power plants all over Pennsylvania. I've never not taken hazardous waste out of the ash, basically where the stack is and stuff like that. And I've never not taken asbestos out. So this report has nothing in it. And I think the old power plant's still up there. So I don't want to, is it not, or is the stack still there and stuff? Okay, well, I'm shocked at this. And I mean, these are reputable people that did that environmental remediation, but that's where I would go. I took underground storage tanks out for numerous companies, starting in Florida for CSX all the way up to Pennsylvania. Certified in about 8 states around here to put them in and take them out. Maybe there's none there. Maybe somebody remediated it before, but the heavy metals in the ash, I would have bet my paycheck that would be there. The energy, as I talked to your solicitor, the energy usage is huge to me. Even though Pennsylvania is the #1 exporter of electricity, that electricity is spoken for through PJM. And whatever you're going to put in I guess your ordinance or with a conditional use hearing to make sure that your power doesn't run low here for the constituents. Because I had to work that whole issue down in Texas a few years ago, and it cost my company $1 billion, and people went into rolling blackouts. And they made plenty of power, but they did until they didn't. Until they gave all the power away, they didn't have the power to use. And everybody was very upset when they don't get water or they don't get electricity. The only other question I'd have, and it's probably for mostly solicitor, how are you going to enforce? I mean, I think it's great that you got ongoing monitoring, but what's the hammer? Is it a fine? Because these companies don't care about the fines. So what is going to be the hammer, and who is going to be doing the enforcement? You can't really have your ordinance person sit there. I mean, is it monitored on a computer? I mean, kind of what is that plan? I was wondering. Thank you for your time. I think to me, he's doing great work. You guys are all doing great work on this, but those are the questions I had.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'll try to address them in order. You have the same documentation I think that we have as far as the ash is concerned, or the old power plant that was up there. They got a phase 1 done, and they have an Act 2 clean bill of health from the state. So
What I saw in there was they got a waiver of liability from the state. And that actually, I'll come back up to the microphone. So
no, that's okay.
It's okay.
It's all right.
So, and it actually. You can't hear me?
No, you don't want mine.
So that actually, when I read that and the Pennsylvania gave them a waiver of liability, that seemed to go against what I discussed with you. The Pennsylvania Supreme Court decided around 2014, had to do with energy companies, that Article 1 of the Pennsylvania Constitution, Section 27, which is environmental, specifically clean water, clean air, et cetera, supersedes Pennsylvania residents, their health and welfare to clean water and clean air, supersedes any police power of the state of Pennsylvania, to include the legislators, the regulators like the DEP or townships. That right supersedes all that. So I scratch my head when I see the head of the DEP, whoever came down and gave a release of liability. I don't get it. Again, I'm nobody, but I'm not used to seeing an old coal-fired power plant that didn't produce ash that has the heavy metals in it. I mean, that's why we quit using cinders on the road. I'm sure there's people that don't know what cinders are, but it's due to lead contamination and heavy metals in it. So that's all. So everybody could hear what I was thinking.
So, and I think we're kind of outside of the data center realm with that, but to the extent there is an existing condition out there and somebody else becomes a owner with respect to title, under CERCLA, they became the PRP, just by way of owning the property. So they'd be a potentially responsible party by chain of title. And if there were cleanup that needed to be done, the current owner could be responsible for that. I don't know what would have to be done, and environmental law is a little outside of my realm, but
It's definitely my wheelhouse. When I read this report, it seemed complete up to a certain phase, but not
Sure.
complete for what's existing out there. I don't know.
yeah, but that kind of is, again, I get what you're saying.
I don't want to take this off.
Right. So as far as the electric piece is concerned, I think that was the second
Yes, sir.
part. Within this current ordinance that we're proposing, we have what we call the EUA, which is an energy use analysis that has to be done as part of the special exception process. They'd have to tell us what their anticipated power usage would be for the DCC, the data center campus, when it's completely built out. They would then have to tell us what average uses would be at peak times of use, at also highest demand, and whatever else we think would be appropriate in terms of that kind of preliminary analysis. Also, with respect to the conditions, if a special exception were to be granted, we address electric in a couple of different ways. One, they would have to provide the agreement to us with respect to the electric provider, the service provider. We have asked that to the maximum extent allowable by law, that they would negotiate an electric rate for the residents of this township that would be the same as their rate. They get a much lower rate on power, as I understand it, than a resident would. And also what we did in here was say that if there are infrastructure improvements, whether it be water, sewer, or electric, that we would pass those along to the data center users. So that's how we've tried to address that in our ordinance.
And then the last part of it was, what is the plan for enforcement?
Oh, that's right. Sorry. Thank you. Enforcement, again, we're kind of in a, I'll say it in a very new area with respect to this CBA, but we've included it in there, the community benefits agreement, so that we have rights in terms of contract. All of those things we would put into that CBA as well, to the maximum extent possible, so that we would have contract rights to enforce. It wouldn't just be an enforcement by way of, say, a notice of violation, and then like a noise violation, for example. There would be responsibilities with respect to that in the actual agreement. Also, I think you asked specifically about noise and who would enforce noise or how would it be enforced. One of the studies that's required is an interim study. So after this proposed campus is for multiple buildings. After a building is built, within 6 months of that having been completed, they would have to conduct a noise study, a sound study. If they did not pass that sound study, they would have to remediate. If they could not remediate in a reasonable amount of time, then the township has the right to revoke their certificate of occupancy at that time. And also the township will not release any financial security that it has until they pass that sound study. So there will be drawdowns, of course, on financial security, but there will be something there that can be used at least as leverage. So that's one of the ways.
Well, kudos specifically, the financial, to me, doesn't matter to these companies.
Agreed.
The revoking the occupancy, kudos to you, because that does have a bite to it. So.
Thank you.
For answering my questions.
Thank you. So do we want to take questions? It seems like we're into public comment at this point. Should we go there?
One second. Who wants to, I'll be democratic about this. Do you want to do public comment now or later, Elaine?
Well, usually the PC gets.
Okay. Rachel, you, PC or
Yeah,
public or
let's
just PC?
go
Okay.
with PC first.
All right. So we'll do the PC comments first, and then we'll open it up to the rest of the public. Or not.
All right, so I can make statements now, correct? Make
No,
comments?
We,
All the way around.
we were gonna do our comments first, and then the public.
My apologies? I'm sorry.
No problem, sir.
I'm so sorry.
Sorry. Yeah.
And it's the same acronym, sorry.
Let's make this an acronym-free zone.
I work in an industry that's heavy on that.
It's a challenge.
All right, do we just want to go, I don't want to do this page by page, but do we want to go by page? Just, or section by section?
Also, if we have like minor wording things, like we can just send those to you.
We can't
Oh,
hear
here.
you. I hear you.
I just asked if we have minor wording changes or things that we can, at the PC, we can just send them to Joe. But so I think we should keep our comments to substantive things.
Thank you. Yeah, that would be great.
I think
Yes.
we'll go section through section, just go through.
Yeah, we'll just do section by section. Section 1, is there any major substantive comments on that amendment to code?
Please speak into the mic.
Sorry, I moved it to her. Amendment to code, any comments? Section 1. I thought that was the title, but it's not. It's just the.
So section 1B is the amendment to the code that allows for the special exception, the data center campus use by special exception. We've specifically carved off nuclear and we've carved it out so that it cannot be permitted in any other district other than the industrial mixed use district. We have been asked to clarify and confirm that language a little bit, which we will do. Section,
Referencing the email we received today.
No, I saw the email.
yes,
I don't think SMRs are appropriate in the township, but
they're carved out here and not permitted in the DC, in a data center campus. The email that we received today questioned the definition, which was taken from a Loudoun County ordinance in Virginia. what we're going to do is delete the definition and just be very specific about SMRs and look to the federal regulations for the definitions and just say they're excluded, together with any other nuclear facilities.
Is that for the entire township though? Because you just said that it was allowed in the industrial.
Don't go down that road,
Okay,
Just doing data centers now.
all right,
please.
all right. So page 2, 272806, special provision for data center campus development. 1. Any comments? No. Page 2.
Actually, just really quick, we were looking at the IMU zoning and we were talking about the prohibited uses section. I shared some information with the group today, but I know it was kind of late, but of course I can't read this glare. But they talk about things that are prohibited in the IMU and any use which may be noxious or offensive as per 27-17-16, or by reason of emissions of odor, dust, fumes, smoke, gas, vibration, noise, air pollution, fire and explosive hazards, glare and heat, liquid and solid waste, vibration, radioactivity, or electromagnetic interference, so as to constitute a nuisance. That is a prohibited definition. And then there's a whole page and a half that falls under that 27-17-16. So how are we defining what this ordinance is about versus what the IMU district is defining there?
Well, it feels to me like this ordinance does its best to try to make sure that this use isn't noxious and doesn't do any of those things. And so the idea would be that a data center is permitted so long as it isn't any of those things. And maybe that's the question that we're trying to answer tonight is, does this adequately cover all of those things such that we wouldn't get any of those noxious byproducts?
And from a
So it's outlined in the entire body of the ordinance rather than just this definition?
We can't hear you.
Oh, sorry. So it's outlined in the entire body of the ordinance. You're saying that it's not noxious or any of those.
right, and from a legal perspective, if you look at those criteria, they're very subjective. The ones that are sitting in the ordinance right now, that was an old style of drafting zoning ordinances, probably most popular in the 80s, 90s, and early 2000s. What we have learned through case law and many other things is that, while Pennsylvania does have an environmental bill of rights, and that is a good basis to challenge things from an environmental perspective, we also have to have objective criteria in our zoning ordinance. So what this data center campus ordinance does is put objective criteria around it that would limit the environmental impacts, the noise impacts, and the impacts as best we can to residents from a power and water supply perspective.
Yeah, I get my follow-up question would be, why don't we put these guidelines that we're trying to build into that district definition then? Instead of picking a somewhat broad subject of data center, but what's the next thing to come down the pike that we weren't thinking about?
You're killing me.
Saying that we should put it in the.
I don't,
Yeah.
Kurt, that is to be very diplomatic about it, that is a conversation that needs to happen. Just not right now.
This is on, yeah. Can I add to that?
Please.
So a lot of times when we're designing a zoning ordinance or an amendment, we're cautioned not to make it too strong or because too restrictive because it can be challenged. So the fact that all these provisions are already in the zoning ordinance, you can't do this, you can't do that. To me, we could add we should make those stronger and then we wouldn't have to, so that they can't be, so that the numbers are there. I don't know quite how you put that, that they're not just vague, all right, that they're more specific, because we really don't want anything up there that has any of those obnoxious things. And so maybe it's a good thing that that list is already there and we make it more specific.
I think that's what Kurt was.
That's what he's
was
saying.
Saying
yes,
as
I
well.
would, yes.
And I think that as we look at the zoning code in general, and we have some similar issues when we get to woodlands and natural resource protection and what have you, that is something that needs, again, that needs to be looked at. We're attempting to address the issue that is staring us in the face, but there needs to be proper planning in the future.
Yes, and that also goes with one of my other comments is that all these things we're putting in are very good, but they should be in there for the whole IMU. And if we're amending things, can't we just put the ones that we think are appropriate just into the IMU?
I think at some point that's the conversation that this board needs to have, but right now,
No, just keep it.
I think we
right.
stick with what we're dealing with. But I agree with you.
And I don't want to make any kind of a jab, but we did put together a new ordinance about 2 years ago that's been sitting collecting dust that nobody's wanted to review.
Shots fired, I know.
Yes, that's true, but I don't
Because
think,
you have 3 people on the board here that spend a lot of time doing that.
I'm very well aware and yes, let me leave it at that.
Yep. Okay, thank you.
And I very much appreciate the work that was put into it.
Thanks. All right, so on page 2, section 2, I guess it's not section, it's
It's-
12.2. Is that why you want to do that?
Section 2 is fine. It's
Section 2.
definitions, yes.
Yeah, okay. I don't know if there's anybody that wants to do any kind of definitions on top of that. I'm going to skip the rest of the definitions.
One quick thing for Jay, there are a couple data center accessory uses that are also listed as data center equipment. And I didn't know if they could be both or if they had to be one or the other. So I just wanted to flag that.
Thank you. We'll clarify. Thank you.
All right,
Actually, can we just back up to
Yep.
H real quick? H1, I think that crypto mining and all this kind of stuff should probably be explicitly added in there.
Okay, we can take a look at that. I think it's covered, but we can add it into the we can add it in definitionally so that we make sure that it's covered.
Right, so before somebody's playing semantics is all I'm getting at.
I got it. No, I understand.
So would we bring it up as to make sure that it were regulated differently than a data center? Or what would be the reason to add a definition?
And, we're calling this a data center, but somebody else might call it a server farm, or somebody else might call it, the cloud or whatever. I just want to make sure that somebody's not going to just say, well, it's not a data center, it's this, it's Bitcoin
see.
mining.
Yeah. I understand. So in the definition of data center where we're at, I think it's H probably, we can list out certain things.
I think a previous version had like 5 or 6 examples,
We can do
for
that.
example.
No problem.
So
Understood.
all right. Section 3, area and bulk regulations. This is where tract size 20 acres, aggregate impervious coverage 50%. Any corrections or adjustments on 3?
I have some comments, but I did it a little bit differently, so you'll have to give me some time to figure it out. Meanwhile, while I'm doing that, other people can maybe have something specific.
I wonder if it's okay to specifically call out LEED since they're a private company. But I don't know enough about all of the other different green building certification programs to know like if there's an analog to each of those different levels that we could call out. Because like, if you said you have to meet the standards of the LEED certification or an alternate program as determined acceptable by the township or something, like how would you meet those very specific qualifiers that are tied to additional square footage for another program? So
Yeah, I think that's a great point. We could say LEED or LEED equivalent in terms of those programs. I don't know what they would be. LEED was that is kind of standard as I understand it, based on just conversations with the people that know it a lot better than me. But if we want to, if the planning commission would like to have something in here that says lead or lead equivalent, I
Or
think that would
approved
be,
equal.
Well, if,
bless you.
like, if LEED has a data center specific track,
It does.
then maybe that's a reason to say, to justify that we picked LEED, but it might be worth a conversation with like Green Building United to see what else is out there and if there are other certification programs that might be appropriate. And if
Happy-
not, then like we have justification, and that's great.
Happy to do that. And yet LEED does have a data center specific, I'll call it sheet, if you will.
Any other comments on section 3?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. Someone else has something. Go ahead.
Go for it.
Well, just on C4, talking about the square footage and the TDRs. Can somebody tell me how many TDRs the township has right now?
Just over 200.
What is the dollar value of a TDR?
We believe it's around $15,000.
And how do we cash out our TDRs?
How do we cash out?
Yeah,
our
I
T-
mean, what does that mean to us? Like, how do we spend those TDRs?
Under the existing TDR ordinance, TDRs are very complicated. Let me just put it, start with that. Under the township's ordinance, any TDRs that are gifted or acquired by the township that are not retired, that the township does not retire, in other words, make them go away, they can be sold at a later date. So in this case, just using a hypothetical example, if a data center were to go in and the township has 200 TDRs, 15, and we agree that the value is $15,000 a TDR. If they needed those 200 TDRs, multiply by 15,000, and that would be the dollar value of the TDRs.
Yeah.
Yes,
Not to say that it is limited to be used in the open space fund.
you do. I don't.
That's the law.
Yes, I understand. Does that make
So-
sense?
Well, what I was leading up to is that I still don't like the idea of having TDRs in here to be able to buy more coverage.
Because it goes back to still having a lousy, space that's there, and you're taking the money and putting it somewhere else and not addressing, the veteran center that it's gonna be
Exactly,
next to
right.
and the residents that it's gonna be next to, so.
Exactly.
I felt that way initially too, and I feel like what this new version of the ordinance does gets the cake and eats it too. Like we would get the TDRs for the big development, but we would also get the LEED Gold certification, which and coupled with all of the other restrictions and monitoring and things in this ordinance, I thought that was a good solution personally.
TDRs aren't allowed to, we're not allowed to say we're not selling these without retiring them, correct? If
They either sell them or
if someone wants them, we either have to retire them or sell them to them, correct?
it's a little more complicated than that, but I'll just say yes.
I have some concerns about the area and bulk regulations. For instance, in impervious coverage, this current draft has 50% impervious coverage. The GI, which this was kind of built off of the general industrial, has 40% impervious coverage. So that's low usually, but I mean, that's a much better impervious coverage. And we could start with the 40% and then use TDRs to go up, say, to 50%. You have to have a maximum. If you're going to use TDRs, you just can't go up to 100% impervious coverage. The idea, the original idea for TDRs was that you down zone and then let it go up to where you would allow it by using TDRs. So I'm just throwing that out for the impervious coverage. Why don't we do that? Down zone to 40% and allow them using TDRs in some way to get up to 50%.
Elaine, that's a great point, and actually, that's what we essentially have done. So what we have done is indicated that the maximum building, you have a maximum building coverage without using TDRs of 300,000 square feet. You can increase up to a maximum of 40% using TDRs. So 300,000 square feet of building on 100 acres is nowhere near 40%, but that's how it's upzoned. We actually have a maximum building size that we allow.
So you think that's working? That's
Yeah, it's-
taking care of the impervious coverage.
Yeah, it's building coverage, right?
Well, impervious coverage includes the parking lots.
So the way that we've handled it is through building
impervious
coverage, but it is, if you have a smaller building, you'll need less impervious coverage, you would need less parking, et cetera. So the building coverage handles the 40% in a sense. Also, under this current zoning regime, in the IMU district, when you have the planned commercial development, you actually have to use some of the planned commercial bulk standards and criteria. That permits a 50%, not the general industrial, but you go to actually the commercial. That allows for 50%. And then you can actually take it up to a maximum of 67.5% using the TDRs. So it's a worse situation for us. So we're trying to make it better.
But so, Elaine, you're saying that in the GI district, maximum impervious cover is 40%. In the ordinance we're looking at now, maximum impervious cover is 50%. And so you're suggesting to make this district match what's in the GI district.
Yes.
Yeah. And to me, it seems kind of arbitrary that they're different.
Mhm. Yeah, they're both industrial.
And actually, this district is higher. It's 55%. So even under the commercial, it's 50%. And the IMU contemplates any commercial use also being in it. So I could see the 50. I can understand the 50 to 55. It seemed, I don't know. I was not here. Let's just say it that way.
Well,
None of us were here.
I don't quite understand that whole building coverage. But and all the calculations, I didn't spend my time doing it, but I do see the connection between the building coverage and the impervious coverage. So,
Thank you.
all right, but then the other one is the building height. In the general industrial district, the maximum building height is 35 feet. And we have it as at 60 feet.
Yes.
Now that is another really even a bigger difference. And I'm wondering if there also we could do the same kind of thing, put it down to 35 and let it get up to 60 using TDRs or something like that. Yeah.
So I understand. And again, the general industrial wouldn't apply to the underlying zoning here anyway. The IMU district has a 60-foot that is being matched, 60-foot building height that's being matched under the current draft. But that 60 foot is actually more than 60 feet because of the way it is measured.
Yeah.
And also because of the allowance for, I'll call it rooftop equipment. So 50 feet is what is allowed in the commercial district. So if you were following the commercial district standards on a commercial, mixed commercial development, you would have that 50 foot, it's actually 35 feet, same matching GI, but then again through TDRs get to 50 feet. Or it may be 85 feet, depending upon how you read the TDR language.
Well, again, when they wrote the IMU, it was to make it a mixed use industrial. So it just doesn't make sense to me to get the building height higher. And I'm just saying that we could, that's why I'm saying, why is it going from 35 to 60? But if you wanted to allow it to get that high for whatever, because of the reasons that might be built there, then you use TDRs to get there. That's all.
No, I understand. Again, I don't have the institutional knowledge to understand what they were doing, what the purpose of the IMU was.
Do you want to know?
You, I'm sure do. But what ended up being adopted doesn't necessarily match, I don't think, what the intended purpose was. And now we're kind of stuck with a 60-foot limitation in the IMU as it exists today. And again, it's just, it's
So
matching,
you're saying we're stuck with it?
sort of.
So
And-
it can't go lower than what it's in the IMU?
You
That's what
can,
you're saying.
no, we've had this conversation a lot of times as well. We certainly can look at going lower or smaller or whatever, and in some places we have.
Yeah.
For example, with the impervious coverage, the IMU provides for 55%. We're saying no more than 50%. However, this goes back to the how restrictive can we be with respect to those bulk criteria, particularly in light of the fact that we have a conditional use plan that now appears to be complete, that would be permitted by conditional use under the current zoning.
Okay.
So we've taken, and that would be, again, that's why we kind of went through that comparison of setbacks and things in the beginning. Right now, there's only a 50-foot setback. Where we concentrated the majority of our focus is trying to set these buildings back much further and provide much more buffering from a sensitive receptor perspective, eye toward the Veteran Center, really, and residential uses.
My other question was noise, but that's not in the area and bulk regulations, is it?
It's a little further down.
Yeah,
It's
okay,
in
we'll
the
wait.
additional standards. Thank you.
Bulk regulations, but it's in D. I was just gonna go by section, not by page. So if you want to talk about noise,
Oh,
okay.
go for it. 'Cause it's still in this section.
All right, well, so I'm just worried about the,
Mr. Chair, excuse me, I'm sorry, Elaine. Mr. Chairman, that's actually section 4, but we're in
Was it?
section 3. Yeah,
I'm
it's
sorry.
additional design standards.
I'm sorry, I didn't see that. I didn't see the 4.
oh, wait,
Sorry.
It's,
Yep, you're right. No,
it's not easy.
That's my fault. I missed the 4.
No, it's my fault. I didn't make it easy enough to follow.
All right, so anything left in 3?
Oh, sorry, what?
Anything left in section 3?
The 800 feet from the sensitive receptors, since building to building, everything else is from the property line.
Mhm.
Can we have that 800 feet from the property line to sensitive receptors?
You can ask, again, we go back to what ends up being considered to be reasonable at the end of the day. I don't know.
How many feet
So
is the Veteran Center from the current property line?
I don't know how far it is from the current property line. If you look at the current conditional use plan that was submitted earlier today, they call it out as being building to building, just under 700 feet. I think it was 690 something.
Is this section that covers setbacks?
Yes.
And then you guys, because I can't see all your, I heard you talk about the 100 feet from the trail, and then you're modeling this at Loudoun County, which is where I'm based.
No, we're not modeling it out of Loudoun
What did you
County.
say about Loudoun County?
We took some of the definitions out of Loudoun
Okay.
County, the SMR definition. It's a little bit FUBAR. That's what we took from Loudoun
Can
County.
somebody speak up to all the setbacks, because I can't see them?
It's on that sheet that you
All the
have.
Setbacks are on there?
They should be, yes. So if we go, what we have is a 50, I'll just go through them very quickly for everybody's benefit.
Before you move on, Jeff, can you explain again why you can't have, why it's restricted to the 800 feet from the building versus from the property line? What's the legal rationale behind that?
There's, I don't know that there's necessarily a legal rationale. It's what's considered to be reasonable.
So who considers what's reasonable? Because if you're calling the veterans home a sensitive receptor,
We are.
yes, so who's determining how reasonable it is for the building to be built next to their building?
A court.
So why would you give them, why would you not do it from the property line and let somebody fight it in court then?
It's not, it's building, it is, just to be clear, it's building to building. It is, if we want to be sued, sure.
well,
I think the court would give certain dispensations to disabled vets in a home, PTSD, all that. That room from the noise and what the noise can trigger. And that, I know it's not a big building to y'all, but to me, it's a big wall there. Like I said, I'm around just dozens and dozens and dozens of these things. They don't bother me, but if I lived right next to it, it would bother me, and the noise would bother me. It's not an average person. If they're going to give dispensation to anybody, I would think they'd give it to a veterans home with disabled vets in there. Just my opinion. That's
No,
it.
I think you're probably right. However, what we're dealing with right now from a setback requirement is 50 feet.
Say again?
What we're dealing with today under the current zoning is a 50-foot setback.
But if they go through the current zoning.
Could you
conditional use-
please, people online can't hear, if you could, please. Thank you, Senator.
If you go through this process now, as if none of this was enacted, so this alleged administratively complete application, which I hope is corrected to actually have all of the buildings of the Veterans Center on it, because the one that was submitted prior is missing an entire building of the Veterans Center, just for reference.
That's their problem. I understand.
Well, if it's a minute, just letting you know. So I don't understand how, if it goes through the normal process right now, none of this is in place, then it's a conditional use. You put conditions if it was an applicable use. I am of the mindset that it is a prohibited use under your current zoning, and why we're even doing this is beyond me. With that said, I don't understand that. It's like, why wouldn't you put in what is required based on where it wants to go? Isn't that the purpose of an individualized application? Because it's location based. Here's the place we want to build this, and these are the things that are around it. So if there's a veterans home and a daycare and other houses, you put in provisions. If you want to build this here, here's what you need to do. That's my understanding of the process, not to give up front. By all means, come in and build right up next to a sensitive receptor or a veterans home. So I don't understand why we would just say like, here you go, here's your 800 feet, when you haven't even measured sound to say that that's even a feasible distance to prevent sound from going into the Veterans Center. These are numbers you're putting into something that could become part of the township's code, and like you haven't met, none of these things have been measured. So you're allowing that entity right off the bat to have these things instead of just going through conditional use and saying, if you would like to build this here, please show us how you can meet our metrics so that harm is not endured. Like, I don't understand why you wouldn't just put those protective measurements in place if you think you're gonna have to go this route with this data center campus, which essentially is allowing it by special exception. So why wouldn't you make it the most stringent and let someone else challenge you? Because it is the job of local government to protect residents, not to help developers. I mean, so like I put it in there, make it protective, and let someone with a lot of money challenge you in court and see what the court says, because there's a lot of court precedent for setbacks, a lot.
The court precedent for setbacks relates to setbacks that are not reasonable. So that's what the court precedent relates to.
25-foot setback that's been deemed reasonable.
It has been, but we already again, to be clear, there are setbacks in the existing zoning right now that would apply to whatever use would go in there, whether it be conditional use, special exception, or by right. So that setback is 50 feet, 100 feet from a residential use on the rear yard. That's it. We're trying to increase that significantly. And also with respect to sound, Senator, I'm a little confused, because in our sound provisions, I think we are more stringent than what's in the existing zoning, much more stringent. And in fact, when you don't allow the vibration, as we're suggesting, to go past the property line, and we've reduced the sound levels, and especially the tonal sound, it would appear that that would be an appropriate way to address sound as well, in addition to the setback.
I believe one of your other I believe it was mentioned already, it was read out loud about what's noxious. That section alone already has restrictions on vibration and sound.
The sound, it's 65 decibels into the current zoning. We have a specific zoning ordinance, a specific section of the township code that addresses sound. 65 decibels during the day. If it's at night near residential, down to 50. Our proposed is much lower than that.
But you have sounds that I've never heard of, I guess, because I'm not supposed to hear them as a human, that are quite high in the decibel range. And then also, I don't know how many bangs are prohibited at 80 decibels a day, but 85 is the OSHA for an 8-hour workday is the maximum. So what the definition of a bang is and the frequency of that 80.
Mhm.
I don't know is there a cap on that? Because you can say that,
It's
but
in the ordinance as far as how long it can be.
so what is it?
A couple, I think it's 1 second.
But how many
Yeah.
times a day can it be 1 second? That's what I'm asking you. Like, it's great, it's 1 second, but if it's, 30 seconds every minute of the day,
That would be a cyclical sound, and that would be no more than 50 decibels.
so what is not a
actually 45.
cyclical sound? What is, it's every other minute, it's every,
No, again, if you have something that's rhythmic, you would be in that tonal or cyclical sound. You'd be 45 decibels. If you're talking about a one-off noise, at least that's what is intended here. If we need to clarify it, we'll clarify it, but it should
if you
be a
don't change
one-off
this to the
noise.
World Health Organization standards for decibel ranges, then this ordinance is, regardless of whatever you do, if those are not lowered to the WHO, it is irrelevant and it's harmful.
Senator, what are the WHO standards?
World Health.
No, what are those standards? Because it's 35.
I didn't memorize them. I can
I
get
know it's
them for you.
35 for sleeping, but I don't know what they are other than that.
Something like 53.
53?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
You can keep going on.
All right,
Like I said, 3 times already.
All right, section 4.
Mr. Chairman,
Yeah.
are we on setbacks? We're coming to that or are we past that?
That's where we were, yes.
Okay, it's setbacks. Okay, so the suggestion was to do 800 feet from the property line, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And Joe, you're saying that that's not legal.
If that's the recommendation of the majority of the commission, that's where we're going to go,
If at 800 feet from the
That's-
property line out,
to a
right?
sensitive
It's
receptor.
usually measured by the property line.
Okay,
I
'cause-
mean, to be
Building,
honest,
right?
I came in, when we first put this together, I wanted at least a quarter mile from any residence. Residential unit, I should say residential unit, not just
Building
residence.
to, building
Any building that houses a person, I want it to be a quarter mile away. But that's what I came in for. That's how I thought that was, but again, I understand the whole, it has to be reasonable, it has to.
Mhm.
I get that, but I don't know if that, you guys have to tell me whether Pennsylvania, well, hold on a second. I don't know if Pennsylvania considers that reasonable or not.
it would be, it depends on the property. It's very difficult to determine really what reasonable is. And again, we're dealing with an already existing ordinance as well.
Actually, 2,500 foot setback was in the Supreme Court case that I referenced in 2014. And it was also in Cecil County, I think it's Cecil County in Western PA. Cecil Township, excuse me, more recently, and it was reaffirmed at the zoning board. Now, there wasn't a plan to go against the 2,500 foot. He's a lawyer. I don't pretend to be a lawyer. I'm a retired federal agent, but I'm no lawyer. I just got to go in court and get beat up.
That's what I do. We're the same.
You're way above me. But the 2,500 foot has been, it's rolling more and more in Pennsylvania based on that Supreme Court case and based on the township zoning board that reaffirmed it in Cecil Township, for what it's worth.
Thank you.
That's just.
Well, then, should we make it 2,500?
it be from this plot here? So it'd be a little bit farther.
Mr. Chairman,
What's that?
Oh, okay.
Oh.
And you've got one.
Yeah, but I was more thinking towards this way, towards the rest of the residents, but anyway.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
just on the 800 feet, I think I would suggest that from the property line, the measurement, and especially when you look at from the veteran side heading that direction, there's a patio that sits out on that side. That a lot of the veterans do sit out there. So I think the 800 feet from that sensory receptor is fine. But again, too, as Roger was just looking at some distances here and that, and quarter of a mile is about 1,300 feet. That's my math. That, sorry. Still gives a pretty good buffer in that area. So if that's something that, you'd want to consider. Again, Yeah, to the residential. So I mean, and I think that's one of the concerns that you have, so.
Yeah, and I mean, they're saying that we can go up to 2,500. So, or at least via some
I'm
court
just saying
cases.
the
So,
state's- Yeah, based on the state Supreme Court case in
Mhm.
2014 and what other townships are doing and getting challenged.
Mhm.
And so far, so good. But again, I'm saying that's your legal line. I'm no,
Yeah.
I can read case law and I understand case law
Mhm.
and I can dig into the weeds on certain subjects. And I'm just sharing that. with
I've
you.
just heard a couple times in the comments from the public, which I'm not the expert on. So I'm going to take the words of people that are a little bit more up to date on that.
If we did a 2,500 foot setback from the property line, you would be beyond the middle of this property.
Then you have to be 2,500 feet from the school trail too, then you don't use any of it. Right.
That's the point.
Well, to Joe's point, I do want to reaffirm, now, there's a belief, a legal belief in Pennsylvania that you have to allow everything basically to be through zoning. And I think, again, law, the law recognizes to me at the Supreme Court level, these townships grow. And as they grow, it's impossible to have everything. You know, you're going to put a landfill over here, you're going to put a hazardous waste processing facility here, but you've built out houses and structures, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So it's physically, it's not possible to zone everything permitted in each township. I'm not saying it's your guys' decision on 2,500 foot. I'm just mentioning it, but on a legal footing is what Joe's he's there to protect you, and that's what he's going to say. And I'm just like, you know, you're not going to get that argument to me as just a working stiff. It doesn't really hold that much water anymore. Every township can have every type of business in it and protect the residents. Thank you.
And my understanding is that, like, we all want a setback, but what I believe to be the case is that if we make it too restrictive, we're gonna get this. Because there's already an application that is under our current zoning that will allow this.
Again, for purposes of clarification, and Rachel is correct, that we have a plan that has been submitted already under the current zoning for a data center, along with other commercial uses. Now, again, I understand that some folks, including the senator, as she's shaking her head, believe that under the Environmental Bill of Rights, that perhaps we could fight with that. That is the Constitution, yes. That we could perhaps fight this. I don't disagree with that at all. We could perhaps fight this. Do we win? I'm not betting on that. If they can address all of the environmental issues through the standards that we put in.
So,
No,
it's not townhomes.
No,
So,
just building, it just says building A, B, C. D,
Five
E.
townhomes would be good.
It's really just kind of a. block plan. It's not really that much. I mean, I will.
that application is a data center plan application. So it's into the township as a conditional use.
Gentlemen, see that.
I mean, that's fine with me. I'm not going to make your argument anything. One thing I will say about the data center, you're not getting any jobs basically out of it, and you're not getting much traffic at all and I don't want to support the data center, but that is two things that is more on the positive or negative, however you want to look at it.
Mr. Chairman?
So how do we want to proceed with this? Do we want to just put in a random number, or do we want to talk about this more?
Well, I think because this is,
That's all.
Evidence-based.
I think because it's a specific property and the property it's being written for it, you can't put conditions in that means that it can't be built on. In other words, we've got the IMU zone, so we're saying if we're writing an ordinance to begin with, right, we're going to write an ordinance to allow a data center. And we say that that data center has to be 2,500 feet from a sensitive use, or whatever it's called, well, that's not, then that says, no, you can't have a data center. So that's a contradiction. You can't construct your zoning ordinance with a contradiction. It does, well, I mean,
No.
this is this is for this particular zoning. Well, I guess you can't see it up there.
It's for the
s-
district.
For this
Yes.
particular district. And if you say that something has to be 2,500 feet from the property line, that takes up the whole district. So I mean, it's, you can't. Yeah, I know, but you don't write an ordinance that says that. That's a contradiction. You just don't put, you say it's not allowed or something, but there is no other property in the IMU. No, you're not understanding what I'm saying. I don't
One
know.
at a time, because we can't hear that many people, so we just need one at a time, please. So, Elaine, can you finish your thought?
Well, I've said it twice. I don't know how, if anyone can say it clearer though. You can't, you don't write an ordinance that is contradictory. That's all. I guess that's.
Yeah,
Well, okay, so suppose I have a circle with a diameter of 100 feet, right? Just as an example. And that's my district, 100 feet circle diameter. And then I say, now, you can't have on the circumference of that circle, there's a house, right? Just a house. And you say in your ordinance, you have 100-foot setback for houses. But meanwhile, you know, as you're writing this, that the diameter of your circle is 100 feet. And then you're saying you can't have anything within 100 feet of the house. Well, you're saying you can't have it, you can't have anything. You just can't do it. And that's a contradiction.
Are
You
we
don't write, you
writing
don't
it to
put
the-
that in writing. So I'm saying, you know.
Elaine, are we writing it to the district or
Yes.
to that particular
Yes.
property that we're all talking about?
This is the district. This property is the
It's
whole
the whole entire
district.
district.
Yeah. Mhm. Well, then you don't say a data center can be there, but it can't be because, well, that should have been, it all should have been done 2 years ago. I agree, but I'm just saying you can't write a contradiction. At least I can't write a contradiction.
all right. Let's, we gotta keep moving anyway, so do we wanna do, sorry. We gotta keep moving, cause we're on page 7 of 22, and we're already an hour and 15 minutes into the meeting. Nicole.
Yeah.
I'm gonna ask you a question. For this 800 feet, what number do you think it should be?
Ask
And
me.
should it be from the property line or not?
It should be from the property line.
From the property line, is 800 enough or should it be higher?
Well, I
Higher
would
or
say
lower?
2,500. or-
Okay. Kurt,
I would either go with 800 from the property line, or if we're saying we can't do that, then make it 2,500 building to building. Okay,
I'll say it here in a second. I already said it.
I'm fine with 800 from the property line.
All right.
Well, I'm fine with it too, but the thing is that leaves just a little bit of space.
Yeah, I'm not worried
Again,
about how
the
much
same
space it
thing.
leaves. I don't care about how much space it leaves. I just want to
Okay,
make sure
so
that it's the
so
right.
then
number.
the idea would be, at least the idea would be that that you're just going to let the data center be on that little tip of land. And that's okay, that's fine with me. But I don't know if that'll go. I think that could be challenged.
I'm just looking at the map again and I retract what I said.
What?
Yeah, it does. From the property line, 800 feet. fence is there. So they lose half their site.
Or just the open.
So I guess what I don't understand is we put these qualifiers, like quantitative things, into the ordinance for sound and vibration. And so it sounds like we don't trust that those are going to be enough. And so my preference would be to like put stuff in the ordinance that's quantitative, that we think will be enough, and then make them meet that requirement, but not take away half the site.
But then you have to enforce it.
Oh, yeah, right, well,
So this is what I wanted to say earlier, and I think I'd appreciate Austin, I think the elephant in the room really is that why 2 years ago, if these people here did the work, I think we have to probably ask the Board of Supervisors in a couple of weeks why that was never considered. So I think that's the elephant in the room. Do our 3 supervisors actually want the data center? And these people here tried to, create an ordinance in the zone, or not create an ordinance, but reflect the zoning. But what I wanted to say here is I live in Magnolia Reserve. We have people, constituents of yours, that live in Washington Square, and enforcement is my concern, right? So you have quantitative things, very objective things that you pointed out to in this. But you all look at land development agreements. I've read our land development agreement. And sorry, I'm a little bit frustrated, but the people that live in Magnolia Reserve, the people that live in Washington Square, the people that live near this data center that's proposed, enforcement is key. And I'm not saying that what the township is doing right now is not, they're not trying to right the wrongs of what has happened in the past. But this, even Barton Meadows, this township has a history of failed enforcement. So I don't think anyone in this room believes that this township, because let's be honest, Joe could, go somewhere else. There's been a revolving door of township managers. Bob could, maybe want a vacation in Hawaii and go somewhere else and be a township manager in Hawaii. But that's the issue. We get someone else in here. We have a different crew leading the charge. What's to say that any of this is going to be enforced? I think that is my concern. I'm not saying that the current regime here is not going to try to move the needle, but this data center is going to take a long time to build. So once the noise and the vibration and the health impacts start piling up and we have to enforce that, I don't have a lot of faith that, and there's a lot of townships. Unfortunately in Pennsylvania, the townships don't enforce much. Consumer protection is horrible in the state of Pennsylvania. So that is my concern. That's why I do think that you should make it as, 2,500 from building to building, whatever you need to, because I do not believe that we will be able to enforce. People are afraid of lawsuits. People are afraid. I'm dealing with it now where I live, but that's my concern. So I just want you guys to understand that even though it's objective, it doesn't matter, because enforcement is traditionally a failure in this township and in a lot of townships in Pennsylvania.
Thank you. It's one of my concerns. Sorry, I didn't mean to touch it. Joe, do you mind if I just have one question I want to ask you before we move on?
As long as it's an easy one.
But I want to ask it in an executive session, but
You want to get legal advice?
yeah.
If we can recess for a couple minutes to get legal
Yeah,
advice.
I just need 1 minute. I don't need anybody else. I just need 1 minute.
Down because you gotta be 500 feet. And then this, and then you have to do, this is also.
So, Mr. Chairman, thank you.
Yep.
We just recessed for a second so that I could give the chairman a little bit of legal advice. I think to help this.
Start the recording, please.
Oh, okay.
To help this process move forward, what I think we're going to do, if the planning commission agrees, is to open this up generally for public comment. I understand the planning commission members may have additional comments that they want to make with respect to this draft of the ordinance. If you could send those to me individually, what I'll do is redline the most stringent of those in, and we'll then talk about it at the next planning commission meeting. Is that acceptable to the planning commission?
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes.
So I guess then, Mr. Chairman, the floor is
Yep.
yours. I'll relinquish.
Public comment?
Yeah, this will be the last on this subject, but I just want to give you a little more ammunition to the board. So in Pennsylvania, there's 2 townships that have 1,000 foot from residential property lines for data centers. One is Jessup Borough, Lackawanna County. The other is Township of Cranberry, Pennsylvania. And there's other states, just to tell you how extreme it goes. I mean, in I think it's Divide, North Dakota, 3 miles between a data center and a property line for residents or schools or et cetera, et cetera. So just a little idea what ground you got to work with.
Please.
I'm not a patient person, and sitting here is very hard. So, Adam Abrico, Spring City resident, Mayor Spring City, and I'm going to be the voice of Spring City tonight. This is disgusting. Everyone has done their due diligence. Everyone is doing their work. Everyone is doing their job. I get that. The advocacy group, thank you for what you're doing. Senator Muth, thank you for what you're doing. But let me be clear. Let's take this circus on the road and go to the vet center and have them speak out because they can't be here. Let's go there. Well, hold on. Let me.
Wait,
Sure.
Actually, sir, Manager Zinkowski did go there, and we're going to hold a town hall meeting.
Thank you.
At the vet center as well.
Thank you.
So we do want to hear their voices. We're currently trying to schedule that. We don't have it scheduled, but Bob, you can speak to that better than I can.
Yes, as soon as we coordinate a date and time that we can get there, it definitely after my meeting with them.
Thank
We
you.
would like to hear what they have to say.
But well,
I hope that,
it has to be before. Let's be clear. It has to be before. Their voice needs to be heard.
Mayor, I don't report to you, so, but I says the thing is, we will try to accommodate as quickly as we can before the board meeting. And right now, the board meeting, the board wants to push it back to allow more comment on this. So the board is looking at moving even their November board meeting back to the 12th of November to allow more time for conversation and dialogue on this. So there'll be a special board meeting next Wednesday, the 15th. No discussion of data centers, no discussion of ordinance. It's to look at to approve the bid for Independence Park, to begin that. And there's some other housekeeping items on there, and then that's it. And then there'll be no other board meeting until the 12th of November to allow more time for this.
Thank you. The 422 just had a truck fire, batteries in it, hours. With a shutdown evacuation. Imagine this happening at the data center, in our vet's backyard, in my backyard, in Spring City's backyard. No, not okay. You say 800 feet, some people say 25, whatever it is. Let me put a speaker outside your house. Let it hum. For 30 days, you'll come back and say, I'm done. Please tell me right now, put your hand up and I will put a speaker outside your house for 30 days. I will have a generator out there and I will have the diesel running. 30 days, just say yes. I will have a sound at the decimals that you set for 30 days. Anyone going to take me up? Please. But you're asking me to. For life. That's not okay. You're asking my people, my residents to do this. East Vincent's people to do this. Not okay.
To be honest,
Uh-huh.
we're not asking anybody to do it. This isn't our
No,
plan.
no, I get that.
This isn't our plan.
But the township is.
I know, but no, the township, it's not the township's plan either. This is a private property owner.
Okay.
That wants to build these data centers. This has.
But shut it down.
It has nothing to do with the town.
That's fine. Shut it down.
To do what we gotta do.
Shut it down.
You know we can't just shut it down.
No, but you can put stuff
that's
into.
Pennsylvania state law.
But you can put some, okay? Yes. How are other places shutting this down?
Why isn't?
Yeah, no, look.
Well, how come the city isn't doing it? How come the state isn't? You know, you're a senator, right? But you're not saying, hey, we're going to not have data centers. You're not willing to stand up to.
I'll take offense to that as the only senator that has come out for the well-being and safety of residents.
You
on
might
this
be, but
issue
but
and
you might be,
fracking and all
but none of
that.
this, none of the
I'm not
senators
sure of
have.
everything. Call Josh Shapiro, it'd be very helpful.
I would love to.
Call Josh Shapiro.
I would love to, but I don't have
We're
the
in a race
access.
For AI supremacy,
It's just-
gonna end up
I-
in your backyard.
What I want to do is I want to make
Use the
this.
Constitution
I want to
to
make
help.
everyone here know that it's not the township's plan, right?
But you're
facilitating it.
You're making an ordinance to
I-
allow it.
I'm
No.
not making anything.
Well, let me ask one question here. How come when they talked about the tire burning, they were like, never gonna happen. It is not coming here. Why didn't you do that for the data center? Why? I don't get it. This is not coming here, but this is. Is this the lesser of two evils? Is that what this is? The lesser of two evils? What is your end result here?
We don't have a plan for a pyrolysis plant right now.
It's not mine.
We
There-
had
there
a
was
plan.
one that they were talking about putting here.
We
said
had a plan.
Absolutely not.
Okay, then why don't you do it with the data center?
So we have the data center that's come in, but also too is under the advisement of our solicitor looking at the zoning. Can't stop something at that point. You can't, what's being discussed right now, like the 2,500 foot setback. Pretty much you render the property, you can't use it for anything.
Okay, but you
So
can
we-
twist
we-
someone's arm
we-
strong enough
we will-
that they say, we don't want to be here. Look, I get it. Look, I am not saying this is your own personal thing. I know this is not personal to us.
I know, it's just you're coming at us and yelling at us, and I take offense to that. So what I'm trying to do is just trying to settle everybody down and say, look, this isn't the township versus the people. This is, we're rural residents here too. I live really close.
So then I apologize to you if you're taking offense to this. All right, and I do. I trust me when I say that. I apologize to each and every one of you if I have offended you. But having this in my backyard is a big offense to me.
Well, I agree. It's in my
And,
backyard.
and to be honest with you, when you have, and I'll wrap this up because I don't want to monopolize this. But when I hear this is the scientific data of what could happen to people's health,
Mhm.
and we still consider it. What if I was to say to you, let me give you a shot, and this shot could give you a 1 or 2% chance of this, X, Y, and Z. What would you say? I'm not gonna
I'm
take
not gonna
this.
get into that.
No. This is not a political thing. I'm not making this about anything. I'm hypothetically is what I'm saying. No, it's a hypothetical
Okay.
thing. That's what that is. Okay.
Thank you.
So I know one is, I get it. But let me be clear when I say this, everyone should have a voice. And when your constituents are all here
Mhm.
saying no, you got to protect your constituents at every single cost. And I will protect Spring City and the constituents at every cost, no matter what I have to do. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, sir. I know you've been waiting.
Ladies and gentlemen, I understand we've talked about the Veteran Center before, but I can't emphasize enough the protection we have to give those veterans over there. They gave their life for our country and fought for our freedoms. We should be fighting for their freedom to live peacefully. Therefore, I would wish you and the Board of Supervisors will shut down this data center and not put harm to those people. Not to mention, we're spending all this money on this township park over there of Independence. Who's going to want to go there and hang out at the park with that kind of noise and that kind of liability laying there?
100% agree with you.
We need to stop this right here and now. By your recommendations to the Board of Supervisors, this can be done.
The only recommendation that we're allowed to make is whether we're going to recommend this go to the Board of Supervisors for approval.
Well, I think we need harsher things in that.
So I 100% agree with you. This needs to be a lot more.
Due to the environmental and the health risk to the community and the township, we have to go a lot harder.
Right. And just so everybody knows, we can only recommend, we can't approve. As this board
here.
Well, I
You
would
can only
strongly
send a recommendation.
encourage you to recommend strongly.
Yes. But they can ignore us altogether.
I think I speak for everybody in this room tonight. This is an utmost important issue to us, and we don't want it here.
I hear you. I hear you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Glenn Beery. Yes, please. Name and,
Joe Frattoni, Locust Lane down the street.
thank you.
I think the most important issue for the, oh, I'm sorry. I think the most important issue for all the residents of East Vincent, as well as all the people in the United States, is a reliable source of water. I mean, Google tells me that the Limerick Power Plant uses 35 million gallons of water a day just to cool that thing off. And that's fine. And from what I understand from the last meeting, is the data center going to use 50,000 gallons a day to cool that off? Way higher than that. If he actually addressed this in his plan, it's a closed loop.
It's not my plan. Don't call it my plan.
The township has addressed it as a closed loop system. Otherwise, you'd have heard me up beating the drum on that because it's going to burn 1 to 2 million gallons a day, and you don't have the excess water in there. It's not here. Exactly. Limerick's already has tried and is trying to get other sources of backup water. And in this, what the solicitor explained to me, they're addressing that in there. It has to be closed loop, or they can use, it's much more expensive, the ways that they put this particular together. I applaud y'all for that, the planning board, but I came in here prepared to talk about the water.
Yeah, it's big. It's a huge issue. I mean, I heard that it said that Limerick is a closed loop too, but they still use 35 million gallons.
That's not true.
Okay, all right,
It
okay,
uses evaporative cooling.
okay.
Which it's physics. I'm not gonna get into all that, but that water is gone. When you see that steam, that's water in the air that's going on. They're using. I mean.
But they're still
drinking water
extracting
from
that from the river that much, right?
They get it from the river, and they have a backup source, old mines. They also get it from the Delaware, and they tried to put a pipeline in from farther over in Chester County, which got killed, which they're Coronado, it was Coronado Quarry. They're gonna put out of the West Brandywine into there and pipe it over there. That got killed.
Yeah.
They use 35, they're allowed 58 million gallons.
Yeah, I've seen that.
what they're
Yeah,
allowed to use.
yeah. So my thing too is, I don't know what people think about if climate change is real or not, but in my opinion, it's real and it's getting worse. I mean, we're in our second drought in the last 18 months. We're running a 6-inch deficit as I speak. There's a nor'easter coming. It still ain't even going to fulfill the water that's lacking for the last 6 to 8 months. And so I just don't understand how, if we go into an elongated drought for months and months and months. I mean, does the township monitor the water tables in this township? Does anybody do that? Yeah, I think that's something that really needs to be done, especially with, the lack of rain. I mean, you've seen lawns are all dying and it's just not a good thing. That's all. That's all I got.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome.
Can I ask a quick question about water?
I'm gonna take a couple online first, and then we'll go back to the room here. All right.
Hi, Megan McDonough. Can you hear me?
Yes.
All right, fantastic. I've been here and I've been listening to this, and I want to say that I believe that I can solve a lot of this for you all. I have been doing municipal land use and zoning for about the past 15 years of my life. It's what I've built my career on. I want to let you know at least a couple things that I think will maybe change at least your mind and perhaps council's mind, right? Recently this year, I was a plaintiff in a case and had a favorable decision. That was the Heracles case, where the Commonwealth Court of Pennsylvania made it very clear that municipalities cannot backload key standards through conditional use or special exception procedures. Those protections have to be written directly into the zoning ordinance itself. When We're in situations where the law defers to discretionary review or case-by-case hearings to fix weak standards. That is exactly the kind of structure the court strikes down. The draft that is currently online that I just read, that is the topic of conversation tonight, does exactly that. It relies on a special exception process instead of embedding clear enforceable standards in the ordinance. And that's not how a municipality protects itself or its residents. It's how you end up defending a legally weak ordinance. So for me, even more concerning is that none of the distances, the thresholds, or performance standards that we've even been discussing tonight appear to be evidence-based. It's a kind of, do you agree with this? Do you agree with that? There's no reference to scientific data, engineering studies, or environmental monitoring to support a 500-foot setback, 60 decibel noise limits. Those at this point are arbitrary numbers, and arbitrary numbers don't survive legal challenge, right? Pennsylvania law requires that zoning standards have a rational basis tied to public health, safety, and welfare. Without data, there's no rational basis here. The model ordinance that was provided to the municipality, and honestly other municipalities across the state, show exactly what an evidence-based framework looks like. It includes the 2,500-foot setback from homes, 15 from agriculture and conservation areas. It requires a pre-construction ambient noise and vibration baseline, enforcement limits of 45 decibels, NFPA 855 standards for battery systems, and a ratepayer protection clause to ensure residents don't pay for grid upgrades. That's an important one. Typically, this is not something that I would put in a zoning ordinance. However, you have 0 state preemptions. Why you're not swinging for the fences is beyond me. So those aren't conditions to negotiate later. They're core protections that must be written directly into your ordinance. Leaving them out and relying on special exception is exactly what my Heracles case condemned. So I just want to say, like, if the township is concerned whether data centers could be banned outright, Pennsylvania law is clear there too. In my neck of the woods, right? In the Atia versus Allegheny County case, the Commonwealth Court upheld that municipalities can prohibit certain uses when they establish a clear evidence-based record showing that the prohibition is reasonable to the and related to the protection of the health, safety, and welfare. So if the township determines that data centers, because of, let's just say noise, water use, heat, power, if those pose a risk that cannot be mitigated, you're within your rights to exclude them. The key is building the record here. You have got to do it through these public records. I will help you do it. So the real question is not whether you can regulate or prohibit data centers. The law says you can. The question is why this draft doesn't even attempt to use evidence to justify the standard it sets. Without that record, this ordinance is weak and vulnerable in court. I promise you that. I've spent 15 years doing this. So I just want to say that the community deserves an ordinance that's based on data, not deference, and one that stands up legally the first time it's tested. And I have had ordinances tested that I've passed in communities all over this state, and they've gone to support Supreme Court and they've upheld. I promise you, I can help you get this done. You've just got to do it the right way. So that's all I've got for you.
Thank you. Yep. If there's more, yes, please.
What was the model ordinance that she was referring to?
I
I
have
don't
no
think
idea.
I've seen that.
That was the one I submitted.
Hello.
Specifically.
Hello.
Oh.
My name is Evelyn Dudonis, and I learned of this meeting a few days ago, and then I learned that it was rescheduled, and I came here believing that I was going to have a voice regarding the existence of
this data center. I live on New Street in Spring City, right down the street from my house. And I thought I was going to have a voice regarding its existence. And what I've heard the entire time is the fact that it's basically been decided by someone, I guess the person who bought it, that they're going to have this this thing here. And I'm just disappointed that I don't have a real voice in this regard. And I hope that there is some way that we heard the person who spoke last and that we can reconsider allowing the existence of this in our neighborhood. Thank you for-
I want to say that your comments need to be said in front of the Board of Supervisors. If you could call back on that day, that would be fantastic.
And what date is that?
What day is that? The next meeting.
November 12th.
November 12th is the next meeting? There's no.
No, there's a special meeting on the 15th.
All right. So
And that's just for, but there's no data center on the 15th, but I just want to address the question there. It says it's already a done deal or whatever else like that. Nothing is done. And you still have a voice. So I'm not sure what information that you got, because whoever told you that, they're wrong. There's nothing done. So I just want to make sure that's clear. You have a voice. So what recommendations you have now, you can speak now and say, here's what your concerns are that. So, it's not done. There is no done deal.
But I want to make sure that your comments are heard by the Board of Supervisors as well.
I will do my best to be there on November 12th. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Is there any more? Okay, let's do those two and then we'll go back to the room. All right, Mr. Canali?
Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
All right. Chris Canali, Old Schuylkill Road. I want to just go back to lead for a minute. There was a suggestion that we loosen the standard and allow for an equivalent. I just want to state, as a member of the U.S. Green Building Council that I am and LEED certified, there is no standard unless you go to a lesser standard. LEED is the gold standard, or I should say the platinum standard out there. It is specific to every use, every industry, every building type. There are sections very detailed about data center building. That is the standard that they should be held to. It breaks it down from environmental. It breaks it down to water consumption. It goes all the way into long-term maintenance and operations of the facility, not just things like, it is included, but not things just like noise level and how to operate a generator and the appropriate generator and the appropriate cooling. It goes into maintaining that cooling long-term. So to talk about, with somebody's question earlier, how do you enforce it? If somebody becomes LEED certified gold and they have to maintain that level, LEED certification is what is going to do that. The other standards that are out there, one of them is called Green Globes. Green Globes is online only. There's nobody that's going to come out and actually measure and certify them. It's a self-certification process. Clearly not the standard we want to, you might as well just forget about doing it if you're not going to do LEED. So I just wanted to make that point. I wouldn't have that as an option whatsoever. It's either LEED or write the thousands of pages that's within LEED into your ordinance.
Thank you. I wasn't aware that there were other standards out there. So the ask was for the solicitor to go out and find out if there were more
I don't think I have
standards, but thank you.
You definitely do not need to. The next set of standards is lower and it's all online and it's self-certification. It's basically, you know, are you going to go to Harvard University or are you going to go and get your online, you know, I have life experience degree as an example.
All right, awesome, thank you. And the last one. All right. Hernan,
Good evening. Good evening, everybody. Hernan Gonzalez from Spring City. Thank you very much for the community members that they have spoken thus far. You took away some of the points that I wanted to make. The only point that it was on my list is based on the current data that is coming out from other parts of the country where data centers have been installed, there is a direct impact on the property values of houses, buildings, businesses around those data centers. So in the case, and like everybody else in the meeting or on the web listening to it, the township, if our property values the value before having to confront that issue, it will be better to avoid that potential issue in the future. A full disclosure, I work from home. I work for the last 25 years. I work in the pharmaceutical industry. I am in supply chain and manufacturing, and we have the same complaints with all the manufacturing sites that they have been installed all around the globe. The company that I work for is global. So I am not, as a resident, I am not looking forward to house property devaluation or the uncomfortability of living with a humming noise 24/7. The standards, like in anybody, like in any industry, standards, regulations, they are always in flux. The regulations were created for a specific need at that time. Now we are confronted with new technology that everybody it is using. Our cell phones are using AI already, and the need is just going to increase. So the impact on nature, water value, water accessibility, so on and so forth, it is just going to increase. With that said, what my ask for the township representatives is to look into it, add the restrictions. Somebody offered to help you with that. I wish you take that person on it. We are trying to update the standards and regulations to a new technology. That is the point that I want to make. Thank you very much. And the next time I will probably be attending in person. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. All right, any more public comment in the room here? Yes.
Everyone, my name is Reverend Taylor Walker. I'm a pastor in Spring City. And before I was a pastor, I was an environmental scientist. And I wanted to bring something up that I haven't heard anyone mention, which is that when we are talking about sound, which I think is an issue to a lot of the people in this room, one of the things that was included on the little cheat sheet there was that sound that is imperceptible to human ears is capped at 100 decibels. Now, the way that sound works, the way that the science of sound is that decibels are how loud something is, and the frequency, which is not included here, is how low or high something is. So imperceptible to human sound means that the frequency of the noise is too high for our ears to understand and translate as sound. It is not too high for wildlife to hear. The kind of sound that is released by data centers is usually in the range of 200,000 hertz. That is extremely high frequency sound. Some people call it ultrasonic sound. Animals that use ultrasonic sound include bats, dogs, cats, all rodents, all kinds of little critters, deer, frogs, grasshoppers, dragonflies, moths, all sorts of insects, and all sorts of precious wildlife that we have living here. Pennsylvania has not a great track record for environmental protection, right? We have a lot of really fragile ecosystems that around here people care about a lot. People really, really love the rivers and the forests and the trails, and we care about them a lot. And I have to say, like, unequivocally, this will harm creation. Even if humans can't receive the harm in our ears, it will harm all of the life around us. The reasons or the ways that bats and cats and dogs and squirrels and chipmunks and all of these things use sound is to communicate and to navigate. Plants, you may not know, also use high frequency sound. They use it to communicate through cell barriers. So when a plant is injured, it receives high frequency sound as mechanical stimulus, and it uses that to transfer cellular messages. As a cute little example, like if an insect comes near, it's going to emit a high frequency noise. The plant will be able to hear that and will be able to shore up chemical defenses in the area where the little insect is likely to bite. So very cute, right? But so all of this is to say that just because on this little thing, it says that we are allowing an unbelievable amount of sound, 100 decibels is really loud, that we're allowing that to happen forever because humans can't hear it does not mean that it will not harm the ecosystem. Yeah, that's it.
Thank you. I wasn't paying attention to the difference between the frequency and the decibels there. So thank you. That does help a lot.
Mr. Chairman, while we're on that subject, that cheat sheet is just a shorthand. There are those frequencies actually listed in the ordinance. So at least it's there, if you will. At the we defined infrasound at below 60 hertz or 16 hertz. And the infrasound also can't be, which we normally feel through vibration, right? I mean, you understand that you can't have a discernible vibration even at the property line. So I think on the infrasound side of things, we're trying to do the best we can in that regard. On the ultrasound side, that's where perhaps there should be some more discussion. That's the 20, I guess it's what, 20,000 hertz really, and 100 decibels. So that may be, and I don't know, I don't have enough knowledge. We relied on a sound expert for these things. Sorry, this is a long explanation, Chris. But we relied on a sound expert for these things, one in Roger's group there. I don't know how quickly those sounds dissipate at a really high frequency. My understanding is it's much quicker than at the low frequency that can travel through, of objects, if you will. But we'll certainly have that person weigh in some more, but thank you very much.
Well, I think that it's important that the pastor did mention all this because I think it's been a concern of a lot of people. And Joe, you too have been talking about it on lots of levels, but we still don't have that specialized sound expert, do we? But Roger, are you an expert in this?
No, not Roger.
Sound?
In Roger.
Oh, another Roger.
No, in Roger's group.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
okay.
They reviewed all of this and thought that it was reasonable. So
Yeah.
that's.
Yeah, I was going to bring that up. And I think the other thing that we need to look at is that adjacent to this site is a highly successful agricultural enterprise for Wagyu beef. Now, that means live cattle. And so, those folks who have also preserved their farm, which was an amazing feat on their part, but they have a highly successful business that's in ag. That's something that this township espouses to support. So I think it really is very important that that level of sound just for the business side of it, let alone, you know me, I'm a big tree hugger. You all know that. Joe, you do know it. I mean, I was arguing bugs and light colors with you one day.
Yes, we
And
were.
how to protect bugs. So, you know, I'm a fly fisherwoman.
And sustainable hunting practices are not our thing together.
Right. So the thing is, I think it's critical because we do only, you know, live in a certain realm. My dog knows me coming in my car before I'm even off Nottingham Drive. He already knows I'm coming. My husband says that to me every single time. He knows you're coming. So there are these other levels that I think we need to pay a lot of attention to. And with the woodlands that are there and the fact that we're on the state heritage and national heritage area, it's really important. So I hope that it all goes heated. I feel there is an openness that I perceived by the township officials on this issue, but I do want to really emphasize it because I think it is critical.
Chairman,
Yes.
if I may, just in talking with Roger, his firm is international and they do a lot of this, the environmental and all of that. So I think coming out of this meeting tonight, then I'll ask Roger to go ahead and engage all his different environmentalists, you know, already the sound people, anybody that they have based on what's come up tonight as topics to actually ask them to opine on this.
All right. Thank you.
Monica Scriver, Valley Creek Lane. I wanted to ask with a closed loose loop system because I can't find the answer. When they need to change the water, where does that water go in that closed loop system? Because I know they're using chemicals in that water. Where does it go?
My understanding is that they really don't change the water out. They sometimes may need my understanding is that once it's there, but you may know better than I do.
Well,
they-
so there's several ways to cool a data center. The cheaper, you know, based on physics, is an evaporatory.
Yeah,
Which uses tons of water. They actually have data centers that had individual lines, water lines, small water lines that go to each CPU, each basic computer and a rack. And they cool it by air and recycle that water. I'm not an expert on how much, you know, I didn't know they were even considering putting a limitation on circulatory, which is awesome. Another way, like in the desert, they don't use water for the most part. They use like your HVAC system, but this data center uses ungodly amount of energy. When they do that, it uses that much more. So it costs more. So to them, this is a good limitation to me, the circulatory, again, I've never put in there. But evaporatory just uses, I came in here partly to argue that, against that, because of how much water is going to get used and how little it's going to affect all you residents here. But again, he took that argument away from me, or the board did.
So I guess what I'm saying is we don't have to worry about our water being contaminated because this is the map of our waterways around Pennhurst. The red means bad. Our waterways are in bad shape. And so anything that's going to come out of that data center, even if it's evaporated in any way, and we know that PFAS does come out, they use chemicals that turn into PFAS. And I just wanted to mention that to you as far as the water system goes. And so I'm glad that none of that is going to be dumped into the waterway or in the land.
No, there is no way that the cooling system water would be dumped into the land or into the water. There should never be a direct discharge like that. If anything, there would water, and to be clear, the closed loop system is different from the potable water and the water that's used, generally speaking, with respect to the people that are working there, right? So drinking, going to the bathroom, all that will go to the wastewater treatment plant. But so I want to be clear, when we're saying closed loop system, we're talking about the cooling system, not the water used by people.
And when they fill that closed loop system up initially, how many gallons of water, and does that come from the American Water?
My understanding is that most of these facilities, when they have from what I've been told, the closed loop systems, they bring water in. It's not from the local water source.
Okay. Thanks for clarifying.
And frankly, I would ask for that to be a condition
Okay.
if we ever got to that point.
So it sounds like from people's comments, I do think it's important to consider the veterans, and I'm glad that people have mentioned that. And for my contribution, I feel the same way. They should be protected. I mean, they did put their life on the line for people they don't even know. And we really have to show them respect, and we have to make sure that their area is an area of healing. But I need to bring up Pennhurst as a well, it's a site of conscience. And for those of you that don't know what that is, it's a designation. And so it is a designated site of conscience. And that means it's a place of memory. It can be a historic site, a museum, or memorial that aims to confront and remember historical events and their contemporary legacies. These sites work to prevent the erasure of history, ensuring that is not forgotten, and also that the memory is just and it has a humane future. So when I think about what is going to happen on Pennhurst and the fact that it is a site of conscience and that it should be a place of remembrance, I want to bring up the survivor, Roland Johnson. You can do a search. He's everywhere. He's been very outspoken about the treatment that he experienced at Pennhurst, sexual abuse as a child, torture, you name it. I can't go in. I can't go into what these people went through. But I really think whether it was poor zoning at the time, and I know we're bringing up a lot of past things, this property should never be where we are right now. And I'm not sure why Pennsylvania couldn't stand up for a place that historically is probably one of the most important places in our country, because it stands for civil rights for people with disabilities. I'm just blown away that we are considering what we're considering. And so I do not agree that Pennhurst should be used as a haunted entertainment. That is another very egregious, terrible thing that was allowed to happen. And I don't think it should be allowed to be put into an industry of any kind. And I wanted to share that. I do think sound is very important. There are studies. I have studies. I have pages of studies. I just shared an article with the Board of Supervisors and Bob about the study that's done with that shows the noise level of traffic, which I think we said was like 70 dBA. It depends on what they're studying, that it does cause heart attacks. But I mean, there are studies in 2013 that said daytime noise levels of 55 dBA and above could account for an additional 542 cases of hypertension, related heart attacks, 788 instances of stroke, and 1,169 cases of dementia in the United Kingdom. A single exposure to intense noise or a steady long-term exposure can result in noise-induced hearing loss. So I'm not sure what that short blip of a second is with the 80 dBA, but even those, even the train noise in your background, and it's happening more and more and more. I've told you this before. I'll tell you again, my home was peace. It was a sanctuary for me. It was 2 acres of heaven. And then a development went in beside me, and I don't know what is going on in my neighborhood, but there is construction noises constantly, the beeping, big heavy things being dropped. If that's not happening, industrial sized lawnmowers are running, it seems, 3 days out of the week for anywhere from 4 to 8 hours a day. There is no peace. And this needs to be regulated. This needs to be looked at. And everybody who made a comment about noise is absolutely correct. I can go on and on, but I'll tell you this, our children are suffering and they don't even know it. Our brains are receiving the hum. That's the other thing. At 52 dB, hum may not bother you, but it harms wildlife. To the human ear, 52 decibels is about the sound level of light traffic. The persistent hum of data centers mask the vital sounds that wildlife need, which you talked about. I mentioned it before. At 45 to 55 dB range, this is when we're talking about it affecting the wildlife. It may be different with dBA, I'm not sure. In 1981, the Environmental Protection Agency reported that half the US population lived in areas with traffic noise from road, rail, airplanes, and it caused significant health problems. Now, here's the thing, and it contributed to a loss of 1 million life years annually, according to the World Health Organization. This is in 1981. When did they update this noise level? When's the last time they updated it to adjust to everything that's going on? And we call sensitive receptors the schools, hospitals and things, but I swear there are people that can hear what I'm hearing and it may not affect them. But I must be a sensitive person because it drives me up the wall. And what causes the cardiac events is when you live in your own home and that frequency comes in and you can hear it. You can hear a buzzing or a humming. It drives you nuts and you can do nothing about it. I guess the next thing I need to do is walk around with big heavy earphones on. So there are people that are hearing this and we're not nuts, but our ears are that sensitive. We're picking up on that low frequency and we're picking up on these noises. And for somebody who doesn't know what it is torture. It really is. And this needs to be considered because once that hum is there, we can say they have to stop the noise at the property line, which I think should be in there if it's not. But how are we going to stop them? Because once a data center starts, it starts. You don't stop it. So how do you stop that when you have somebody coming out of their house saying, I can't, I'm going nuts. Please don't institutionalize me. Let's go move, right? Or get me earphones or something, because it is a very serious issue and nobody deserves that. And I have the research. I'll get these notes to Bob and the Board of Supervisors. If any of you want them, I'll gladly share them. The data is there. It is data driven. The noise level has to be lower. The standards are too high and its time is coming. It's going to come. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes. Please. Should take something else out of it.
Steve Hacker, 881 Brown Drive. Last comments were great. Pastor, that was awesome. Really was. So I want to address what this gentleman back here in the gray shirt said about the water. You guys have all heard me say this over and over again. You're probably sick of hearing me say it. So I'll just say it to you, sir. I live on Brown Drive. I live a stone's throw from this plant. I'm telling you, a literal stone's throw. Our well went dry right about this time last year. My next door neighbors went dry the next day. Okay. Granted, my house is old. The well wasn't that deep. My neighbors was drilled in the 1980s. Okay. So we're right there. And this already happened in the drought season, 39 days without water. We're the canary in the coal mine. I really think we are. I think we're the canary in the coal mine. And if this thing goes in, you're going to see people waiting longer than the 39 days we did to get their wells drilled, or they'll have to hook up to American Water Works. I have a question for you. Do you know if the over at Kinsey's, the data center that's going to go in there, whether they want to say it or not, is that going to be a closed water system?
I don't know the specifics of that. I'm based around all these data centers where I work at.
Right.
In Loudoun County. And I only know, I'm coming in on the back end of this and finding out, luckily I got to talk to your solicitor, gave me some of the information specific to this ordinance.
Okay.
Not to the application. So I don't know about the other one.
Well, there's 3 more. Okay. So everybody in this room, there's 3 more planned.
I would push to the hill because
Yeah.
we don't have a water around here.
Yeah.
Just having, they're a great neighbor, Constellation, Limerick, it's great to have here. But the water consumption, they can go up to 58, they're permanent for 58 million. They're only using 35. There is an excess of water to be taken by anything else around here.
Yeah.
So for what it's worth.
So Kinsey's, there's probably one going in there.
Anything else around here, it's not designed like that. The water's not here. I literally.
I know.
Make
Yeah.
the argument on water and power of these data centers, one thing. I didn't even want to touch on the noise or all that stuff.
Yeah.
And I wanted to make the case that there is case law in Pennsylvania that does allow townships to be exclusionary based on the health and welfare of the constituents, the taxpayers of Pennsylvania. To me, I can list it probably 4 or 5 cases. The Supreme Court decided it and reaffirmed that, but I don't, Joe's much smarter than I am. I was really gonna do it for the board, so they know they got some protections. It's his job to tell the board, hey, we're gonna get sued. All these big corporations, that's the first knife they throw. Hey, we're gonna sue you.
Right.
And so you gotta decide, and it's easy for townships to worry about getting sued. But at a certain point, they gotta worry about the constituents and class action lawsuit. That's what you get into. But to me, and I'm a nobody, not a lawyer, but the case law supports health and welfare of your constituents over these giant data centers, these wells, gas, whatever. But that's my opinion based on case law.
I mean, we have proposed, like, whatever's happening over there at Kinsey's in Linfield. Another one going next to the outlet centers, Saratoga. Another one possibly in East Coventry. You want to talk about water from one of these being too much? Try throwing 4 of them in this area. I think we should be the ones to stop it. So let me ask you this. Our supervisors, who didn't want to own up to it previously, voted this to be an industrial zone, right? Was it in the 90s?
Not the current board. Not the current board.
It was like.
I just said it wasn't the current ones. Yeah, I'm saying this current voted to make this commercial industrial, correct? Well, we know they voted it this way from residential, correct?
It was.
Why can't this Board of Supervisors make it? Why can't this Board of Supervisors go back and make it residential and put this to rest?
They possibly could, but keep in mind that the current plan that is, assuming that the application that it is in right now is administratively complete, and that application is for a data center plus other uses, we'll say, okay? That plan is administratively complete. That plan takes advantage of the zoning that exists today, not the zoning that exists tomorrow. So that is what we're dealing with from a practical perspective as well. We also understand that is by conditional use, and I think we're signaling a pretty strong signal that at a very least, these are the things that would be required in the event that there were to be litigation. I'm not going to talk about litigation strategy. I'm not going to talk about any of that stuff because, Steve, unfortunately, you're not part of the board and I can't take you back there and have that conversation.
But I mean, just as a practical use, we could put this to rest if we just made it residential again.
No, we couldn't. That's what I'm telling you.
I know what he's saying, but you're also talking about for the good of the constituents. Maybe we say no.
And that's so. And
If there's a plan, you gotta ride it out. If it's truly administrative complete at 3 p.m. today.
if it's administratively complete at any time before the zoning is changed.
Is there an expiration date on it?
That's what I said.
There is an expiration.
That's correct. That's correct. So, and I just want to be clear, Steve, on this part too, as far as the public health, safety, welfare, the environmental bill of rights that's in the Pennsylvania Constitution, and Pennsylvania is unique. It's not alone, but it's unique in that way among the United States. What we've done here, to the best of our ability, and I understand the enforcement issue. I understand we can't. These folks can't control future boards, nor, who knows how long I'll be here or Bob. We could get hit by the beer truck tomorrow, right? But what we've tried to do here is protect folks. We've taken the water issue and said, no, closed loop system. You can't impact people's wells. You can't.
Honestly, I get all that.
Okay, I know.
I get all that.
So we've taken that, and if they can comply with that, we've taken that issue off the table from a public health, safety, and welfare perspective. We said for power, okay, if we can, we want you to negotiate with the same rate that you're going to get for the residents, the maximum extent allowable by law. That's a PUC issue, really. It's not our issue, but we're trying there. So we're taking that in the economic impact and trying to minimize it as much as possible. Hopefully it's none, and hopefully it's a benefit. I don't know that. I'm not saying that, but hopefully. So we've taken that piece. We went from power generation to no power generation. There is very little in terms of pollutant that will be on this site if that in fact is the case. There'll be some generators that run only when the power goes down, but we've taken that environmental aspect and tried to address it to the best of our ability. Sound, we may have some work to do. All right,
Sounds
we
that
may
way,
have some
yeah.
work to do. But we've taken sound, we've relied on our consultants, our experts. These are not random numbers. These were things that people told us that were good levels, if you will. And we've tried to drop them down as much as possible. 60 decibels, 50 decibels for regular sounds, 45 for those tonal sounds, those hums. Okay, that stuff almost goes away. So if we've taken that and we assume for a moment that we get to the right standard, we've taken that out of the equation. So now we've taken out pollution, water issues, sewer issues, sound, noise, and economic impact. What do we have left to fight them with?
Setbacks.
Possibly setbacks.
And that's for
Setbacks and heights.
health and safety.
Right, but if we've taken away all those issues, right? If we've taken away the fact that it pollutes, if we've taken away the fact that it's a noise producer, if we've taken all those things away, what do we have left?
I don't know, boy, it
From an
seems,
environmental Bill of Rights perspective.
You can't prove that what their plan is actually takes it away.
yeah, and enforcement too.
So that's like counting the angels on a head of a pin. You can't ever, you plan for what goes in. You can't take away what's there. I understand that, but you plan for what goes in and you assume, and I know what assuming does, but you assume that people will comply. And yes, we test in advance, we require studies, we've taken all of that into consideration in this ordinance. That's why this is here. And we're trying, I mean, these folks up here are trying the best they can to protect everyone out there.
I realize that. It would have been great if this was done 6 months ago, though.
Oh, hell yeah, excuse me, heck yes.
So is it his plan? Does it have an expiration date on it, or is he submitted and it's good forever now?
No, his plan actually has an expiration date the other way. In other words, under the municipality's planning code, we as the township have to act on his plan in a certain period of time. He can give us an extension, an indefinite extension even, but once that plan is submitted, and again, assuming that it's complete, I'm assuming, and you gotta know what that does to me, but if it's complete, he gets to keep it there and
forever?
Not forever, because we, the township, we are required to act on it a certain period of time. But if we don't, the applicant grants the extension. He can take that extension away at any time, or we can say, no, we don't want the extension and take action on the plan.
But what I'm saying is, suppose he doesn't build anything there.
Suppose he doesn't build anything
for
there.
10 years. Is that plan still in effect?
If we have not, the township has not acted on it, and he has not asked us to act on it, then it possibly could. But that I'll tell you, practically, that does not happen.
No. I mean, suppose you pass this ordinance, you allow him to do this, and he doesn't do it for whatever reason.
He doesn't do what?
He doesn't build here. He doesn't get the funding. Who knows? Whatever. Does this plan stay in effect forever?
No, if we, it's a hard question. It's so fact specific. I'm not trying to avoid the question at all, but if that plan were just sitting there and say he went away, then the plan would go away. The next owner, for example, would not necessarily take advantage of that plan. The township, I would assume, at some point would take action, and the applicant would be different. So there are a whole bunch of facts involved that I don't have, of course, but for not right now, we assume that plan stays there. And if he doesn't give us an extension of time, we've got about 60 days to act on.
It really seems like the sound thing's going to be tough. I'm going to pick up any more
Listen,
time.
we're all with you. Thank you, Steve.
While she's coming up, I just want to say something. So we've heard that this applicant has proposed lots of different things in the past. And like, to what extent do we think that they're reacting to the zoning that's in place? Because like, I think a lot of us agree that this is a crazy area for industrial use and that the zoning is bad. And like, are we trying to like react to this specific applicant for something that he's interested in doing because he thinks that's what we want, when that's not actually what we want? And maybe we want something different, and we should be looking at that instead.
That's a great question. Thank you. I don't think he's reacting by way of something we quote unquote want. There was never an indication that I'm aware of given to him that the township wants a data center. It's that over the last 12 years-ish, he's come through with at least 5, if not 6 different plans, if not more. And each time he's gotten to a certain point in the township said, no thanks, not that one, not that one. So now he's at the point where, and I know the administration has changed. I know the manager has changed. I know the board has changed, but there's a level of distrust that has occurred both directions.
Sorry.
Go ahead.
My name is Alex Metricardi. I live in Royersford. Full disclosure, I am the mayor of Royersford. And so I wanted to come tonight to make sure that you all know Royersford cares about this too. This is an interesting project that has the capacity to impact a lot of people in our area. And so as of course, this is your township and your decision, please know that we're worried about the impact on it as well. I can see from the conversation that we've had tonight that your group has done a significant amount of work to try to do what you can to mitigate any of the possible ramifications of a data center. I truly appreciate talking about the closed loop system, thinking about the sound, thinking about the energy generation and pollution. But it all feels a little bit like rearranging deck chairs on the Titanic. And the fact of the matter is, if it gets approved, it is most likely, as I understand the situation, not going to be built by the person who's bringing you this proposal, but more than likely this will be sold to a giant corporation, and then you're down, your township is down trying to figure out how to enforce that. And it seems like from some of the comments tonight from you, and also from your residents, that there's concern about whether or not that will really take place. I did want to bring just a piece of information that hopefully you all are probably aware of, but just to make sure, Plymouth Township had a data center coming to them for approval. Their planning commission voted not to approve the data center. This was a property that was already had a lot of commercial and industrial applications on it. It was a closed loop system. They were doing energy generation there. So they took a lot of those same steps. But in the end, the planning commission felt that they had the ability to not recommend to their township board of supervisors that that be approved. And so you've had, I think, some good information tonight about other townships in the area who have found ways to not approve these. And I do understand, I was on the borough council for 8 years before I moved to mayor. So I do understand some of the logistics of what you can do and what you can't do. But there are ways, I think people in Pennsylvania, townships in Pennsylvania are finding ways not to approve these. And I would urge you all to see if you can consider finding a way to do that as well. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you. That Plymouth Township one is different a little bit than what we're dealing with. They went in for a special exception, I believe, under like a warehouse or wholesale use, and the planning commission said that's not what that is. So that a little bit different than our catch-all that we're dealing with.
Getting towards the end, right?
I just wanted to make another comment, listening to everything over the past several months. So this woman, Megan McDonough, came forward in a passionate way, who has some expertise. I certainly don't know her or what her expertise really is, but she does sound somewhat impressive to me, at least. And we do have a copy of her ordinance. I don't know how much that really got a look at, both from a legal point of view and from the planning commission point of view. And she's now asked and said she would volunteer to help us. So maybe that's an offer we ought to just take a look at more seriously. Just trying to give you a little piece of advice. Thank you.
Yeah.
Any other comments? Yeah. Last couple, because we're kind of running late, so I just want to make sure. Yeah, just please.
Johanna Valenti, 211 South Wall Street. I'm not even sure where to start with this. You have so many people that are expertise in this discussion tonight. So thank goodness for all these people that know all of this about it. Full disclosure, I normally don't come to most of our meetings. I'm a mother of two. I'm usually just not here, unfortunately. It's not been high on my priority list until I heard about this. And so all I can think is, you know, I didn't know about this. I came about this through more of my professional standpoint. So I found out about this and I'm here. But it makes me think that most of our community probably still doesn't know much about this. I've seen on Facebook, on like the Royersford pages where people said, oh, data centers. And then they started this whole Facebook thing, you know how it happens of, oh, that doesn't even matter. And what are they talking about? And all I can think is about, they have no idea. And it's really sad and it's scary. I utilize our parks here, the park next to the Veterans Home. I'm there almost every single weekend with my 9-year-old. I know that 3-mile loop like my back of my hand. The trail, I'm a runner, I'm a biker, I use it all the time. So the thought that this is going to come into our backyard is so extremely scary. I have to say it's hard to sit here and watch these proceedings because I have to agree with the one caller that said it feels like a done deal. It very much not understanding all of this feels that same way to me. I don't quite see how we're fighting as hard as we need to stop this as we are to give all the points of why this, you know, is going through. I'd like to see that same fight to say, hey, let's not do this. There's so many reasons we don't want this. I certainly hope that as a group that we come together, and I hope that with, you know, our mayors here, we can get the word out better because it's not out there. If what we need is more power from everybody, then I will do everything in my power, being in the PTO and the school and whatnot, to make sure that this is heard better because it's scary.
Thank you. Yeah.
Cindy Ramsey, 116 Penhurst Road. So you guys all know how I feel about this, living on Penhurst Road and what we're already putting up with between the water companies building, those vibrations, those trucks that come through, the cement trucks, the big 18-wheelers that bring all the cement in, and the building that's going on up there. And think about what that's already impacting the veterans. They're right across the street from it. I might be down the street, but we hear it. And as well as I talked to Bob about the wonderful haunt that's in session Fridays, Saturdays, and Sundays, where I came home on Saturday to find and pull into my driveway at 6 o'clock at night to have all this traffic flying down the road like there's not even a speed bump there. We put up with this noise constantly. Now you're asking us, or this gentleman that wants to develop this property more, to put up with even more noise, more sound, more health issues. You know, and the fact that my property will come to zero value like many others that have been built. Like I said to Mark, you're going to trade houses with me when my house has zero value on it because you're not living over there? It's not affecting you the way it is me? My 40 years of residency in this township and what I've put into my home, my property, you know, that's just basically going to be ripped from me because somebody wants to go build a data center close to my home. Okay. And again, we're looking at the environmental impacts. Oh my God, we love the Schuylkill River Trail. We love the fact that it's there and that we can go out and ride our bikes and we can walk and we can be there in nature and enjoy this beauty. To have that ripped from us. And the park, why are we putting all this money in a park when nobody's going to want to be there? What are we doing about that money? Are we going to hold back on it until we see that this goes in? You know, so we can't develop it because once it's developed and we put all this money in it, no one's going to want to be there because of the environmental issues. You know, you've got to start really thinking about this community. And I know you guys are working hard on this. It's not your vote that's going to decide this. It's the Board of Supervisors. And I told them this. You want to come out to my house on a Friday night, Saturday night, or Sunday night with all this traffic and sit with me and get to hear what I get to hear every night? No, you don't. And neither do they. But I'd like to invite you. I mean, come on out. I'll make a pot of coffee, a cup of tea, whatever you want. I'll make you a margarita if you so wish. Nice beer. Everybody could probably use one right now. And listen to what we put up with already. already. And then to be asked to consider having to live near this. I mean, I've had people say, why don't you just go ahead and sell your home? I can't sell my home without disclosing what might get built near it. Okay? So where does that leave me? I can't just move because now I have to say, oh, there's a data center that's being possibly put in up here. I'm sure you want to live next to that, don't you? So I'm just trying to, once again, let's find a way to make something different happen. I tried speaking at the Board of Supervisors meeting to Mr. Shrine about how he uses the money from, or he did back in 2019. There was an article about him, about how he uses his money from these businesses, such as Pennhurst, to build this wonderful equestrian event in Ocala, Florida for his daughter, who loves the outdoors and competing and horses and all the work that he did for this, right? What about Mr. Hunt's farm? His agriculture area, his horses. You know, how is it going to affect his land? When we're talking about water and the whole 9 yards and the air vibration, you know, we're already dealing with some of this fallout from what's already there. And now we have to think about more. I just want you to really start thinking about the people that really are right there, especially those veterans. And I see those veterans. I came from work today. Okay. I work for a vascular surgeon. Those veterans come into our office and they're not in great shape. And you're going to put something else by them for all that they've given to give us our freedoms. Let's find another way, folks. Please, let's find another way. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, just to be clear, there is no fallout, no nuclear fallout, no nuclear, right?
Yeah.
But I know that you wanted to try and wrap things up fairly quickly here. I know we've got a couple
this
more.
gentleman's last as the last comment. 'Cause
Thank
I
you,
know
Mr. Chairman.
He's been raising his hand for a while now. Okay, I didn't realize that there was still, okay. You'll be the last person in here and then we'll take a couple online and then we'll close. So I do want to try to get out of here sometime reasonable.
Stephen Weidler, 130 Pennhurst. I think the passions that the public's feeling about the data center is being misdirected at this group. I believe, maybe I'm wrong, but you're trying to give the township teeth to fight the data center. Am I correct? So I think what I'm hearing from a lot of people is misguided. You guys are trying to give the township something to fight the data center with, to limit it. And I just wanted to clarify that if I'm seeing it correctly. And if I also understand, until this ordinance is passed, any applications are applicable to what's on the books now, correct?
Correct.
That's right.
So as we discussed before, it'd be like, let's roll it through, but I understand everybody's blaming you guys because they don't want the data center. I don't want a data center either, but I understand that we need to get something on the books so that we have teeth to fight it. Can we look at the other side of the property? Like somebody pointed out, the farm. We're looking at residential, we're looking at, the veteran center. Has anybody considered the farm, the animals and stuff like that? If we incorporate something with a buffer for agricultural and farming?
So without getting too far and too down the road, so to speak, the interesting thing about that side of the property, which is on the other side of the Schuylkill River Trail, it's not the same zoning. So I think that it most likely would provide an additional buffer anyway on that side of the trail, if you will.
Okay. I'm just
So,
talking about
but
the
yes.
effect that it would have on
Yes, we've looked
their
at the
livelihood.
absolutely. The working group considered that. And what we're hoping again is that in part because of the split zone nature of the property, it's kind of a standalone parcel with it being over on the other side of the Schuylkill River Trail. And that provides a fair amount of buffering. It's where if you remember that old well, the old current plan,
Right.
it had the solar farm right there.
Mhm.
So that piece we would hope would be something that would be, I think, preserved or something of that nature.
Okay.
And I think in the current application that they have it now designated as something like future development or whatever. But yes,
I don't know if this goes into an ordinance or is this a township, but driving around, I see a lot of new developments are required to keep historical buildings such as farmhouse or something like that. Would this be something that goes into more of that one clause where it says one or two more historical buildings? Because I mean, that is a large piece of history that's going to be, from what I see from the one first sketch, obliterated.
yeah, yes.
So I don't know how that is. And I see the traffic is a study. Does the ordinance have to go a little further than that, or should it just say study? Because I mean, I'm looking at Penrose, we're looking at Brown, we're looking at construction traffic. I mean, a study goes so far, but do we need to address it just a little more? Instead of a study, we need a definite plan on how to get construction if it happens.
If you're absolutely right, study helps us understand what may or may not happen. But when you get to the land development phase, traffic, stormwater, those are true land development issues if they were ever to get that far. In this case, in very large projects in general, you oftentimes do a road assessment before they start, for example. And if there's damage as a result of the development process, that's required to be fixed. The other thing that I've done in very large projects is to require certain routes to be taken.
That's what I'm more concerned
and
about.
times a day, so that, you know, there's not that constant construction activity here too. I don't know how they're going to build this thing if they ever were to build it. I would assume, based on what I've seen, that it would be some kind of panelized construction and not poured. They have a lot of room on this site. I would imagine that we could require them to do staging on site, you know, drop flatbeds, as you're familiar with, on site, and then take a crane and pick those things up and do what they need to do, which would also cut down on traffic.
Thank you. Online?
Hi, Megan McDonough here. I just wanted to follow up if you all can hear me.
Yes.
Yes, okay, perfect. I just wanted to follow up on an earlier public comment about property values. I just wanted to let you all know that as part of my day-to-day job function, I have actually helped residents lower their property tax assessments by up to 45% within a half mile of industrial developments. And going out as far as you all are, I'm pretty positive I could lower that by 30 for folks. So if this does happen to get approved, I'm happy to be of service of anyone in East Vincent to lower their property tax assessments. I'm sure that will not come as a surprise to some, but for the board, maybe that makes a bit of a difference. My offer is free of charge, by the way.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments? Any more? Okay.
Hello? Hello?
Were you there?
Hi. Jennifer Wallenberg. I'm a East Vincent Township resident on Lucas Road. And just for a little bit of context, I've worked in the environmental industry for the past 30 roughly years. And so I've listened to this discussion with a lot of interest. And I think that some really great points have been raised. And I'm sure a lot of others will be very interested to see the update that includes the recommendations from the township arborist, that, you know, the tree replacement was something that I had comments about. And so I'm glad to hear that there's an update forthcoming on that, and we'll look forward to reading that. I would be really interested. One of the early commenters made reference to a remediation report related to the property. And I was wondering whether that is a document that's publicly available on the township website someplace. I didn't see that, and it would be great if that could be included as part of the package going forward. I thought that there were some great comments related to water levels and the sound impacts to wildlife in particular. And I think that it would be great if the township's sound experts can take a look at those comments and see if the current recommendations on decibel levels would be protective of wildlife, because I do think that that's a really important consideration. All of that being said, I think that some really great points have been raised during the course of this meeting regarding the need for any ordinance that is passed to include reasonable requirements that are evidence-based, so that whatever ordinance is ultimately put on the books is not immediately subject to challenge. So I think that some of those points are things that the board should really think hard about. And I know that, we're trying to do our best to be protective of all the surrounding uses. I completely agree with that, but, an ordinance doesn't do any good if it's immediately struck down in court. So I think that's an important consideration. The other thing that I wanted to just mention was that, as has been said before, if the current application that's in is administratively complete, that application is going to be judged not by any requirements that are part of this data center ordinance, but by the current zoning requirements. And for that reason, I think it's really important to make sure that any ordinance that the township passes related to data centers is not so tailored to the Pennhurst property that it becomes unworkable or, sort of irrelevant elsewhere. So I think that, and this comes back to the need for having sort of evidence-based requirements in the ordinance, because even if the current application is administratively complete and is evaluated on the, the current zoning, if somebody were to come to the township in the future to propose a data center elsewhere, we want to make sure that whatever ordinance is put in place today is just as protective, of that other property as it would be of the property and the uses surrounding the Pennhurst property. So I think that's an important consideration. And then, at the risk of touching the third rail, the last thing I'll say is that it does sound like, based on some of the discussions tonight, that revisiting the overall township zoning code and taking a look at that in the current context and the current township priorities would be something that the township residents are really well served by. So, I appreciate all of the perspective that was shared earlier about, we got to focus on what's in front of us. And I agree with that. But I don't think that, I do think that we should make an effort to look critically at all of the other existing zoning, just to make sure that there are not other places in the township where we'll be in a position to have to scramble to prevent some sort of undesirable use if it comes in front of the township in the future. And that's the last of my comments. Thank you for all of your efforts on the residents' behalf on this issue.
Thank you. One more?
Can I just add one thing to her comment since she asked about it?
Katie Muth, I did receive, and thank you, Bob, for sending it to me. I've asked 3 state agencies, 1 county entity, and I've gotten no response, which is very chilling, I'll say. So thank you for sending me the only documentation that I know available regarding any remediation done at this site, which I believe was designated a brownfield. I don't know when. I don't know the date of that designation. I don't know if it was after, obviously it was closed. They obviously built a veterans home on the same property. So I'm assuming some remediation was done on the entirety of the property before it was, sold off in different pieces. But I think that it would be very helpful for the public to read this. And also, I've never seen in my life, and I'm only 42, but read a few reports on April 27th, 2018, Pennsylvania Department DEP Secretary Patrick McDonnell and a technical representative from the department, the environmental program manager, Mr. Patel, visited the site of the Penhurst property that we're talking about here relative to the proposed data center. The engineer for Mr. Shrine or Penhurst, I don't know, this says Penhurst LLC, but I thought that was the old owners LLC, so I thought it was Penhurst Holdings DE LLC, but nevertheless, we can figure that out later, but that the actual secretary of the DEP made a site visit to visited this site. I'll read it verbatim. Visited the site of the phase 2 report to Mr. Patel. Mr. Patel indicated that I don't know, this is their typing, not anyone's typo in this room, but I'm going to read it verbatim because I don't know why there's 2 verbs here or past tense verbs. Mr. Patel instructed Pannoni to provide this report in support of receiving a release of liability for this site. A copy of the environmental site assessment and phase 2 reports are included in Appendix B. I have never heard in my life, that part right there should be concerning for every resident in this Commonwealth, that the PADAP secretary visited a site, a brownfield. You know how many brownfields there are in Pennsylvania? There's actually one created every day. As soon as a frac pad has frac wastewater spilled on it, becomes a brownfield. A lot. Read the PA bulletin every Friday. You can see all the remediation plans of our ruined ground. So I've never seen this in my life, and quite frankly, I think the unethical behavior described of instructing the engineer to construct a report. The DEP is the regulator. They're not, the third-party consultant to help with the remediation. They are supposed to be overseeing this. So I just want to bring that to everyone's attention because this is the first I've ever seen it, and I will be happy to bring it to the attention of everyone in state government because that's very concerning. And the other caveat to that is that the coal-powered power plant on, some people call it the incinerator, the boiler on the Penhurst property was in fact demoed in late 2024. And this report is dated February 28th, 2020, even though what I just read to you said 2018. So anything in this report does not include this part of the site where the power plant was. And in fact, in, I believe, January, I have it on my phone, that towards the middle of January, the actual stack for the power plant was demoed. That was, I found in a PA bulletin advertisement for January of this year, 2025, that the demolition permit had been, or application has been received and approved, and they had a week or something to demolish the remainder of the structure that existed, which was the stack, which is, if you're burning coal and all the things are going out, the stack is arguably one of the most toxic things. So anything that's in here does not include any testing, anything from that demolished power plant. So I'm making the request personally as a resident to the township, but I will do it officially as a senator to the Pennsylvania Department of Environmental Protections to test that section, because there's a lot of rubble in heaps down there. You can see it from the trail, including coal ash, which is more radioactive than that nuclear power plant we can see not too far away, and also has a lot of heavy metals in it. So I just say that is sitting on the ground now, no fence, nothing. And maybe somebody said that's okay, but from the standpoint of ethical and moral failure on my part to not tell you that I think that it should be at least fenced off or something until it is properly removed and remediated. But that site will definitely, that's sitting on the ground. There's no barrier, there's no tarp. So I don't know how long it's all been sitting there, obviously since the demo, but the coal ash, I'm assuming, has been there, I don't know, longer. But just wanted to bring that to everyone's attention because that seems, it's right next to the river. So thank you.
Senator Muth, while you're up there, on the model ordinance that was brought up, I think some of us weren't around when you
submitted it several times, and then
then
I think we just emailed it again, and then hopefully you have it now. But that's one that is specific to what Megan works for Food and Water Watch, and she also works part-time for me and does research, but she's on the other side of the state. So She and her organization, which is a national organization, have been trying to help Pennsylvania as this all has been coming very fast, as you've seen other townships dealing with what you're dealing with in this new era. So that is drafted based on those recommendations. It doesn't say East Vincent at the top because it could be for any municipality.
But it came from Food and Water.
It was a draft between her and I mean, yes,
Oh,
I mean, it's part of their recommendation, specifically the part about burden of proof that strengthens in there, that if you did nothing at all, but that would be the most powerful thing you could do in terms of protections. We don't have to debate how I feel about special, I mean, she explained it tonight, is that putting it in your zoning is the way to protect ourselves as a township, and any other way would be challenged. But that's the draft. I can give it, I have one hard copy if you want it, but I think we emailed it to you can send, okay, because I've submitted it a couple of times, so.
And I can post it on.
Just one point of clarification. Our standards are specific to data centers, but they're not special exception standards. The things that we talked about, the bulk and dimensional criteria, the additional design standards, those are basically base underlying zoning standards. They're just specific to data centers. They're not specific to every use in the IMU. So it's a little bit different than what was set up a little earlier. The special exception criteria, I totally agree with. They have to be objective, and those are the studies and things that we have in there, not base standards. So thank you.
Hello?
Hello, we can hear you.
I have two, well, one is a question and, well, I guess both are questions. If you lift the height limit on this facility, what does that open the doors for other companies coming into the area? I mean, it wouldn't affect just this one. It would affect the whole area.
So to answer your question directly, the underlying zoning, which is industrial mixed use, provides for a 60-foot height already. The proposed ordinance doesn't change the height with respect to the underlying zoning.
Okay, so the limit that we have now would only be for this facility?
No, any use that came in right now, this ordinance is a little complicated to explain at times, but if there is a use that is permitted in the industrial mixed use zoning district, in the list of uses, then the maximum height for any of those uses is by default 60 feet. There are exceptions to that because in the ordinance they require other standards to apply, and those are all over the place. Some of them are 35 feet, but at a maximum, those other standards can be 50 feet. So 50 or 60 feet is the maximum really that you get in the industrial mixed use zoning for any use.
Okay. Okay, my other question is, what financially is East Vincent actually gaining if they get this?
I think
What
it
kickbacks or anything like that is the township profiting from allowing this thing to go in?
I missed your last part of your comment. I'm sorry.
What financial gains is East Vincent getting if they allow this in?
Well, kickback is different than financial gain, but this is really not a financial gain issue. There's a tax issue. They would be probably the highest volume taxpayer they would be for sure the highest volume taxpayer, property taxpayer.
They don't get an exemption through.
There's no TIF. There's nothing proposed like that. In fact,
No, I
Bob.
mean, like currently they're not in a program that gives them, like, I know it's not ag preserve, well, one parcel. is preserved,
You
but,
mean
it's something greener, it's not growing. green.
No, you're referring to Act 319, clean and green.
Clean and green.
Yeah. So that when a property transfers and a use changes, that tax exemption it really goes away. And that only really applies when you're talking about 319 and 515, which is forestry. It's farming or forestry. Those go away when the property changes hands unless there's certain conditions met. When the use changes for sure, like development of any kind.
So right now, he's in the clean and green?
I don't know that for
couldn't
sure.
Find it online, so that was one of my to-do list. was
I'll look too. We'll get back to you on that. I don't think so, but it should be on the county's website if it is. So, but in any event, even if it were clean and green, that only applies to the value of the property, the actual property. It doesn't apply to the value of structures.
Okay, so otherwise you're not, the township itself isn't getting any kickbacks or anything like that to allow this thing in. That way we have a fighting chance to, we're not even, most of the people aren't even sure if we're in a position to even stop this. And I think that is what, that is a question I think should have been asked. I loved all the comments and questions that people had, but I wasn't sure, are they getting a kickback in any way or any other monies outside of the sale of the property?
To be clear, there is no money coming to the township as a result of the sale of the property. There would be a transfer tax that would go to the county and some other entities perhaps, but we're talking about taxes, real estate taxes that would be paid by any property owner. The only other monies potentially that the township would get are with respect to preservation of other properties, historic resource preservation, TDR sale, transferable development right sales potentially. But there's no kickback, there's no personal gain for any supervisor, there's nothing like that.
Okay, thank you.
Is that the last online? All right.
Chairman, if I may, just one brief item. I just want to mention that Senator Muth had spoke about before is to keep your eye on the ball from the state level. The governor has been clear, and you can go back and find his language, what he's been talking about. He is behind data centers. He met with President Trump and they had a press conference that said the governor would like to see this. The senator has spoke to us before about, legislation with the state budget. If it goes through, there could be certain riders that could strip local laws that would cover this. It would take out the ability for local government to have any controls. Yes. So we've got to keep an eye not only on that, but on these types of items, but also too, Roger had pointed out to me sitting next to me, you have the state armory that sits next to Pennhurst. And if the government, if this is like, let's look at data centers, they could sell that to a data center directly and then we're out. And I believe, Senator, you're probably the only one that's spoken out against yeah. But I mean we were talking about the armory. So I mean, those are things that, again, we got to keep our eye on those balls too as well.
You good? Mr. Solicitor, are we good? Yes, thank you. I move we close until the stated meeting on the 21st of October. Second. On favor? See you on the 22nd.